Chapter 2574. Page 1/1. Killing to become a god was a code word. The international prison was a place to imprison international criminals. It was said that once you entered the international prison, you could forget about coming out alive. Those who were sent to the international prison either had their arms or legs broken. Their lives there were more painful than death. And Yun Jian had some friendship with the boss of the international prison. In other words, Jin and tour guide Meng's actions had seriously endangered the lives of many people. Yun Jian, on the other hand, told the staff to throw Jin and tour guide Meng into the international prison. This was no different from killing Jin and tour guide Meng. This staff member was almost killed by Jin and tour guide Meng. If the suspension bridge broke, everyone would be buried here. Jin and tour guide Meng would not leave any traces, and the staff would be the ones to suffer. Perhaps because of Jin and tour guide Meng, these staff members would be ruined for the rest of their lives. One had to know that since the suspension bridge was built, it meant that the suspension bridge was definitely not dangerous. Of course, unless it was man-made. The staff member was disgusted with Jin and tour guide Meng after finding out about their behavior. Hearing Yun Jian's words, the staff member hurriedly responded, "Good. I will make sure that they are severely punished." At this time, the tourists who had just escaped from the suspension bridge heard about this. They stood up one by one and personally escorted Jin and tour guide Meng away. The group of tourists who had been brought to D country by Jin and tour guide Meng all exclaimed, "Those two evil people! To think that I thought they were good people. I didn't expect them to almost harm us. This kind of scum deserves to die." As it turned out, Jin and tour guide Meng were done for. After staying in Country D for 3 days, Yun Jian and Ce did not stay for long, returning to Longmen City in a low-key manner by car. After Yun Jian and Ce returned to Longmen City, the next day, the news reported that 2 tour guides of a certain tour group had lost their humanity and hundreds of innocent people had died at Country D's nameless mountain. In the end, perhaps even the heavens couldn't stand it anymore. On the way to the international prison, the truck carrying them suddenly flipped over and went down the mountain. Jin and tour guide Meng were killed on the spot. On the other hand, the driver of the truck was completely unscathed. There was no sign of injury at all. When Yun Jian saw the news, she closed her eyes and turned to look at Ce, who was staring at her intently. Needless to say, this matter was definitely done by him. Of course, Yun Jian didn't ask too much. She packed her luggage and planned to go back to school in Jiangqing City. After a while, she would set off for Yin Province's Hidden Dragon Mountain. On the Hidden Dragon Mountain, there was a third artifact that was enough to kill the mysterious man. She had never forgotten. But before that, she had to go back to Jiangqing City to study for a period of time. It had been a long time since he went back. When Ce saw that she was halfway through packing, he stretched out his slender fingers and massaged his temples. "Xiao Jian, if there's something I'm hiding from you, will you blame me?" he asked abruptly. His words made Yun Jian's hand pause in the middle of packing. "It's okay if you blame me. You're mine when you're alive and you're mine when you're dead." Ce moved his lips and passed a document to Yun Jian in the next second. Yun Jian merely glanced at the document nonchalantly. Her pupils contracted in the next second. Yun Jian, who had always been calm, looked shocked. On the document that made Yun Jian's expression change, it was written as follows: Top reading website, M. Chapter 2575. There weren't many things in the world that could make Yun Jian reveal such an expression. However, what was written in the information was beyond Yun Jian's imagination. "Is this true?" Yun Jian pursed her red lips. Her shocked and incredulous expression was replaced by an unconcealable joy. "I've been hiding it from you because of Enhun's rules. They don't allow the assassins and agents in the organization to have any attachments. Your brother is an exception." Ce nodded. He had been hiding this from her for a long time. At first, it was because he had lost his memory of being a senior immortal and didn't recognize Yun Jian. Therefore, he only treated her as an agent of Enhun. Later, he couldn't bring himself to say it. He was afraid that the loving relationship he had built with great difficulty would be ruined by this incident. Finally, he mustered up the courage to speak. As the leader of an Hun, Ce killed people without batting an eyelid. He never did things sloppily. However, when it came to her, whenever it concerned her, even if he had done something bad to her, he would hesitate for a long time, mustering up the courage to speak. These words didn't exist in Ce's mind before he met Yun Jian. Ce was already prepared for Yun Jian to be angry with him after she read the information he gave her. However, Yun Jian's hand that was holding the information trembled violently. In the next moment, she suddenly threw the information on the floor and rushed up to him. She hugged Ce. Then she used her actions to tell Ce that after she found out about this incident, it didn't matter if she was angry or not. Instead, she became even more proactive. That night, Ce enjoyed Yun Jian's unprecedented actions. For Yun Jian to be so proactive after she found out, Ce must have taken out this information when he had just confirmed his relationship with Yun Jian. Then, wouldn't he be able to eat meat earlier? He might even have formed a football team. He Province Suzhou. As a province in the central region, He Province wasn't prosperous, but it didn't retire either. In Suzhou of He Province, the class differentiation was very obvious. In the city, the rich were filthy rich, while the poor were so poor that they had to beg. In this era, the country had yet to give all homeless people a place to stay. Now there were no longer any homeless people who begged on the streets. They didn't even have a place to sleep at night, so they had to sleep in the gutters. That was because the country was paying for these poor homeless people. Everyone could eat their fill and eat well. At this point, he had to mention that it was good for the country to be strong. In this era, there were still many homeless people on the streets. Longmen City had always been a place where men plowed and women weaved, so there were basically no beggars in Longmen City. He Province's Suzhou was different. The economic conditions here were more backward than Longmen City. Many people could still be seen huddled up in public places, such as the train station. In a slum in Suzhou, it was a 19-year-old girl with a black hat on her head. She was dressed in simple clothes, but they couldn't hide her perfect figure. She shuttled through the slums and soon arrived at a dirty place. Matching the address written on the slip of paper in her hand, Yun Jian walked into a slum. Coming to the second floor of the slum, Yun Jian saw the door open just as she reached the staircase. In a dilapidated room, a poor woman dressed in sackcloth was bending over to cook a simple meal in a pot made of firewood. You guessed it right. Her parents in her past life weren't dead. It was Ce back then who got someone to hide this matter, so she couldn't find out about it no matter how hard she tried. Chapter 2576. Page 1/1. Most of the people in the slums lived a life of hunger and cold. Here, they would be satisfied if they were able to eat a full meal. Standing in the dilapidated house that was only 2 stories tall, Yun Jian's eyes flashed coldly as she looked at the middle-aged woman, who was dressed in sackcloth that was patched with rags. The woman walked around the back of the burning stove and pressed her hand on her waist. She slowly bent down and picked up a piece of firewood and stuffed it into the stove. Then, she walked back to her original spot and continued to stir-fry the rice with only a few pieces of vegetables. The house was old and dark. When people stepped on the floor, it would make creaking sounds. It gave people the illusion that they could step on air at any time. "Miss, make way, make way." Just as Yun Jian stood outside the door and stared at the simple house that was not closed with a glint in her eyes, unable to move, an old lady's voice came from behind her. The old lady gently pushed Yun Jian aside and rushed into the house before Yun Jian. She said to the middle-aged woman who was stir-frying, "Ran, your daughter is fighting with someone. It's at Westgate Market." The adults couldn't stop them even if they ran over. "This girl, fighting with a man. Hurry up and go take a look." The middle-aged woman was different from Qin Yiru. Her face was thin and her hands were almost skinny. Her face was full of yellow spots. However, one could vaguely see that she was also a great beauty when she was young. The middle-aged woman's surname was Zhou, and her name was Ran. Zhou ran. When Zhou Ran heard the old lady's words, her hands froze. "Pada, The old spoon she used to stir-fry fell to the ground. Auntie Wang, please help me put out the fire. I'll go over right now, Zhou Ran said to the old lady. Then she walked out anxiously. On Zhou Ran's face, there was a sadness that couldn't be washed away. It was a kind of sadness that came from the depths of her soul. Zhou Ran quickly ran out of the house. But the moment she ran out, she inadvertently glanced at Yun Jian. Their eyes met. With just one glance, Zhou Ran stopped in her tracks. She stared at Yun Jian. She should have taken a step forward, but she couldn't. Ran, what are you doing? What are you going to do if your daughter gets taken advantage of if we're late? I don't know who this girl is looking for. I'll help you entertain her. Hurry up and go. The old lady who Zhou Ran called Auntie Wang urged her. Zhou Ran took one last glance at Yun Jian and rushed out. 15 years. Yun Jian was kidnapped when she was 5 and entered an Han organization. Yun Jian was 19 this year, but she was actually 20. She could no longer remember how her parents in her past life, who took care of her, looked like when she gave birth to her. But when she met Zhou Ran's gaze just now, the blood in her body told her that she was her mother in her past life. There was no mistaking it. After Zhou Ran left, the old lady looked up and wanted to ask Yun Jian who she was looking for. But when the old lady looked up, Yun Jian was already gone. Westgate Market. Because Zhou Ran ran too fast, she almost fell down. Her hands were quick, and she supported herself on the ground to stand up. Her knees were heavily rubbed against the ground. But she didn't care about the pain in her knees, and rushed to the Westgate Market. What did you say? Say it again. My sister will come back. And my little brother will come back too. Don't talk about my mom like that. My mom isn't a jinx. At the entrance of the market, a girl who was 1.7 meters tall, and had short hair clenched her fists and scolded back while fighting with 4 or 5 boys. At first, the girl had the upper hand, but later on, 4 or 5 boys worked together to suppress the girl. This girl was also Zhou Ran's daughter. Her name was Yin Mu, and she was Yun Jian's biological sister in her previous life. She was only 2 years younger than Yun Jian's body in her previous life, which meant that she was only 1 year younger than Yun Jian's current body. She was 18 years old. When Yun Jian was kidnapped, Zhou Ran's mother-in-law forced Zhou Ran to have another child when Zhou Ran was heartbroken. Zhou Ran couldn't resist and gave birth to Yun Mu. When Zhou Ran's mother-in-law saw that Zhou Ran gave birth to another girl, she immediately forced Zhou Ran to have another child. In the end, she couldn't give birth to another child for several years. In the end, she finally gave birth to a boy. That boy was Yin Zhu. However, when Yin Zhu was 8 years old, he was kidnapped for no reason. Zhou Ran's mother-in-law cried, threw a tantrum, and forced Zhou Ran to divorce Yun Jian's father in her previous life. Yun Jian's father in her previous life, Yun and I, refused. In the end, Zhou Ran's mother-in-law failed to commit suicide by taking sleeping pills. Only then did Yin and I compromise and divorce his first wife. All these years, Yin and I and Zhou Ran never gave up looking for Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju. At this moment, Yin Mu was being mocked by these boys, and she fought back by scolding and beating them. When Zhou Ran arrived, the boys were about to take turns to slap Yin Mu in public. No, Lian Yu is outspoken. Don't lower yourself to her level. If you want to hit me. Zhou Ran rushed over. Just as Zhou Ran rushed over, she suddenly felt a figure that was countless times faster than her flash past. In the next second, the figure suddenly appeared in front of the boys. A second before a boy in front of them was about to slap Yin Mu, the figure reached out and grabbed the boy's wrist. Then, the sound of a wrist bone breaking echoed throughout the room. Crack, crack. Translator. Hengyi Translations Editor. Hengyi Translations. Chapter 2577. The boy whose wrist was being pinched by Yun Jian suddenly let out an earth-shattering howl. Ah, my hand. Mine. Crack, crack. Accompanying the boy's scream was the sound of his wrist bones being broken one after another. Westgate Market was the most dilapidated market in the slums. Rather than calling it a market, it was more like a large group of old ladies or grandpas, setting up mobile stalls to sell vegetables. There wasn't even a place to sell vegetables in the slums. They just spread out a white cloth on the ground and placed all kinds of vegetables on it. It was a simple way to start selling vegetables. Of course, the slums had no shortage of people. There were too many monks and too little gruel. There were many people and very few residences. At most, each family was given one room. Although Westgate Market was dilapidated, it was filled with people. Just now, when Yin Ran was fighting with a few boys, most people stood aside and watched the show. There were also some who tried to stop the fight, but in the end, it was to no avail. Yin Ran had the appearance of a boy since she was young. She was 1.7 meters tall and looked like a man. Although she was only 18 years old, she looked more mature than Yun Jian. From the side, Yin Ran looked like a fresh and handsome young man. Even the girls were elated when they saw her. These boys were from the same school as Yin Ran, and had long treated her as a boy. Seeing that Yin Ran had seduced many girls in school, they hated Yin Ran very much. Just now, they bumped into Yin Ran, who was buying groceries for her mother. Knowing Yin Ran's family background, these boys began to kick up a fuss. Yin Ran was so angry that she started to fight with 4 or 5 boys. Unfortunately, Yin Ran was a girl. If it was a one-on-one fight, Yin Ran was still very strong. However, when it was 4 or 5 against her, she was naturally weaker. The boys all treated Yin Ran as a boy. Those who lost in a group fight would naturally be beaten up. Just now, when these boys were about to beat Yin Ran, Yun Jian appeared. However, not only did she directly grab the wrist of the first boy who wanted to slap Yin Ran, she also used brute force to break the bones in his wrist. His bones were fractured. Chengzhe. F***ck. Who is this girl? Get her. Get her. When a friend of the boy whose wrist had been broken by Yun Jian saw this, he shouted at the boy, as if he was completely enraged by Yun Jian's actions. The boys naturally couldn't take this lying down. They joined hands and rushed toward Yun Jian, with clenched fists in front of the hundreds of passers-by around the Westgate Vegetable Market. You be *th. He actually dared to help Yin. Her mother was a jinx. She had once lost her daughter, and now her son had been abducted. She was even chased out of the house by a man. You bastard, don't you know this is our territory? How dare you attack us? F***ck your grandmother. The boys' curses were extremely unpleasant to the ears. The poorer the place, the worse the security, and the more gangsters on the streets. Suzhou was such a place. The reason why these boys were so arrogant was because they had someone backing them. However, when the boys came in front of Yun Jian and waved their fists at her, the surrounding onlookers thought that Yun Jian was in trouble this time. Yun Yin got up and wanted to help Yun Jian. For some reason, when Zhou Ran saw these people beating up Yun Jian, her heart burned with pain. She wanted to step forward and block the violence of these arrogant boys for Yun Jian. Yun Jian gave a side kick and directly raised her leg high to step on the leading boy. She opened her hands and directly grabbed the sleeves of the 2 boys behind him. With the strength of her hands, she flung the 2 boys more than 10 meters away. The last boy was so scared that he didn't dare to come forward. She just sneered and glanced at the last boy. Then, she bent down and stepped on the palm of the boy, who had insulted Yun Yin, and Zhou ran with her other foot. Kacha kacha. The sound of the knuckles bones breaking clearly reached everyone's ears. Her method just now was straightforward and efficient, causing everyone to panic. Just when the surrounding people, who had never seen such a frightening scene before, were about to stop breathing, Yun Jian's cold voice sounded clearly, but it made people tremble with fear. No matter whose territory this used to be, now that I'm here it's mine. Chapter 2578. Every sentence that Yun Jian uttered sounded like an oath, and the 5 fingers of the boy under her foot emitted cracking sounds. Every time he spoke, it sent chills down everyone's spines. It was as if a spirit from hell was about to appear. Yun Jian's face remained indifferent and expressionless. The black hat added a sense of mystery to her. Big sister. Big sister, I was wrong, big sister. I beg you to be magnanimous and let me go, big sister. The boy used his other hand to grab his wrist that was under Yun Jian's foot. His face was pale from the pain. His body trembled because of the pain and Yun Jian's ghostly words. The boy had completely thrown away his pride as he begged for Yun Jian's forgiveness. Yinmu stood behind Yin Jian. She glanced at Yin Jian and pursed her lips. Then, she spoke to the boy under Yin Jian's foot. Bah! If you dare to speak ill of my mother in the future, I'll kill you even if I have to risk my life. Wu Song, you scum! As she spoke, Yinmu clapped her palms together and cracked her knuckles. Her tone was as if she was going to kill the boy under Yin Jian's foot. Big sister. I won't dare anymore, big sister. The boy called Wu Song was a stark contrast to his previous domineering attitude. He kept begging for forgiveness. The moment Yin Jian released her foot, the boys supported each other and staggered away. Ha ha ha. Coward. Yinmu dug her nose. She did not look like a girl at all. What do you mean risk your life? Liang, you're already 18 years old. Don't do things that will make your mother worry. Be more sensible and obedient, okay? Zhou Ran heaved a sigh of relief. She looked like she was really frightened. Mom, they were the ones who did it to me first. Yinmu retorted indignantly. At this moment, Zhou Ran had already walked up to Yun Jian. She gulped and looked straight at Yun Jian. After 2 seconds of silence, she shook her head and said to Yun Jian, Thank you so much for what you did just now. My house is simple and crude. Do you mind coming to my house for some tea? As soon as Zhou Ran finished speaking, Yun Jian stared at her. The corners of her beautiful and delicate face suddenly lifted into a smile. As soon as Zhou Ran finished speaking, Yun Jian replied without hesitation, Okay. It wasn't that he didn't mind, but that he agreed. Zhou Ran hid the sadness in the corner of her eyes and dragged her daughter, Yun Jian, back home. She had to admit that when she saw Yun Jian just now, the child she lost 15 years ago came to her mind. Haha, that was ridiculous, wasn't it? Her child Yun Jian had been lost for 15 years. At that time, she was only 5 years old. How could she have found her way home? Our house is simple and crude. We don't have tea. This is freshly boiled water. Make do with it, don't mind it. Zhou Ran handed a cup of warm water to Yun Jian. Yun Jian took it but didn't say anything. Her eyes were fixed on Zhou Ran. What's wrong with me? Is there something on my face? Zhou Ran couldn't help but ask when she saw Yun Jian staring at her face. Yun Jian only shook her head slightly. Mom, Dad is here. Just as Zhou Ran finished speaking, Yinmu rushed in excitedly from outside the door. Behind her was a middle-aged man in his 40s who was dressed in a business suit. This man was Yun Jian's biological father in her previous life, Yin and I. Chapter 2579. After Yin and I walked into the house, he glanced at Yun Jian, who was sitting in the room, and then said to Zhou Ran, Do you have a guest? As he spoke, Yin and I did not avoid it. He took out a large stack of red 100 yuan from his briefcase and handed it to Zhou Ran. Ran, take the money. When Zhou Ran saw the money, tears fell again, but she still reached out with trembling hands to take the money from Yin and I. Compared to Zhou Ran and Yin Ran, Yin's clothes were much better. That was because Yin and I was an old employee of a company in Suzhou, and his income was not low. The clothes he was wearing were distributed by the company, so naturally, they were not too shabby. In fact, Yin's usual clothes were very simple and crude. Take this money and ask old Zhang to go out and find them. Don't be afraid. We still have a long life. We will definitely find the child. There is nothing money can't do. The child will come back one day. Yin and I put his hand on Zhou Ran's shoulder and said this. In the end, even his own voice was slightly hoarse. Yin and I wiped his tears fiercely and smiled. He turned to walk out and then said, Then take good care of the guest. If I don't go back, I will be discovered. Although Yin and I and Zhou Ran were divorced, he had been saving money for Zhou Ran. It had been 15 years since Zhou Ran took this money and begged people to find Yun Jian and Yun Zhu. For 15 years, they wore tattered and mended clothes and lived like beggars. Even food and clothing were problems, but they never gave up looking for their child. Dad, be careful on the way back. Yin Lian said to Yin and I. Yes. Okay. Yin and I nodded. But just as Yin and I walked out and was about to leave, 2 figures suddenly appeared at the gate. The 2 figures were one old and one young. The old one was an old lady in her 50s or 60s. She was dressed in ordinary clothes. In this slum, she should be considered rich. Actually, they were just dressed like a well-off family. The one missing was a woman around 36 or 37 years old. She was also dressed gorgeously. As soon as the old lady appeared, she glared at Zhou Ran and scolded Zhou Ran. Sure. You bitch. She has divorced Anir for so many years, yet she is still pestering Anir. What are you doing with our family's money? What do you want to do? The old lady was Yin Ni's mother. She was also the mother-in-law who tried to commit suicide by swallowing sleeping pills, and forced Yin and Zhou Ran to divorce. Leave yourself alone and live a good life. However, you have been harassing my Anir all these years. Damned lowly maid. Is going to marry Wen next month. You lowly servant, mistress. Go and die as soon as possible. As the old lady spoke, she pulled the 36 or 37-year-old woman, standing beside her, and scolded Zhou Ran. This 36 or 37-year-old woman was Wen, who was going to marry Yin and I next month. Shinta-Wen was an employee of the same company as Yin and I. However, her position was lower than Yin Ni's. Therefore, God liked her very much and forced Yin and I to marry her. Yin and I did not agree, and delayed it for so many years. Mistresses have been causing trouble since ancient times. Bitch! How dare you take my family's money after you are divorced? I will beat you to death. The old lady stared at the stack of money in Zhou Ran's hands, and was so angry that her hair stood on end. She rushed over, and wanted to grab Wen's hair and fight with her to snatch the money. However, just as the old lady's hand was about to land on Zhou Ran, a pair of beautiful hands grabbed the old lady's collar. Who are you? This is my family's business. You are an outsider. Get out of here. The old lady saw Yin Jian suddenly stand up, and she scolded Yin Jian. Just as Shinta-Wen was looking at Zhou Ran smugly, and everyone thought that Zhou Ran would back down, Shinta-Wen's expression changed. Yin Jian pointed at Zhou Ran in front of everyone, and uttered a statement that sent a ripple of shock through the crowd with a straight face. I am Yin Jian, her biological daughter, who was separated from her 15 years ago. Chapter 2580. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. If we're talking about an outsider, you should be the outsider. Who do you think you are to strut around in my house? Yin Jian grabbed the old lady's hand, and uttered the words that were extremely calm to her expressionlessly. Once she spoke, Zhou Ran, who stood where she was with the stack of money, Yin Mu, who rushed up to stop the old lady when she was about to attack Zhou Ran, Shinta-Wen, who carried a branded bag and was dressed to match Yin and I, as well as Yin and I and the old lady herself. Everyone present was completely stunned by Yin Jian's words. You. What did you say? The first one to react was not Zhou Ran but the old lady. At this time, the old lady stared with her pair of black eyes, and a look of horror flashed across her face. Jianer? You're Jianer. Zhou Ran stared at Yin Jian after she heard what she said. She stared at Yin Jian, her voice soft and her words heavy as she spoke with all her might. Yin and I was dumbfounded as well. The briefcase in his hand fell to the floor with a clatter. Didn't they say they were separated for 15 years? How could they find her? Shinta-Wen had heard of Yin Ni's family background as well, so she exclaimed in disbelief. The old lady's face was terrifyingly dark as well. Are you my elder sister? You're my Yin Jianjia. Yin Mu was stunned. In the next second, she dashed to Yin Jian and threw herself into Yin Jian's arms. Sis. Yin Mu, who was 18 years old and 5 centimeters taller than Yin Jian, had short hair and looked exactly like a boy. She cried with all her might, tears streaming down her cheeks despite not shedding a single tear for more than a decade. Yin Mu was only 3 years old when Yin Jian was separated from her. When her younger brother was kidnapped, Yin Ying was already in her teens. But Yin Jian was no longer around, so she was the elder sister. From the day her parents divorced, Yin Xing cut off the long hair that she loved the most for more than 10 years. She swore that she would protect her mother like a boy, be the pillar of the family. She wanted to protect her mother from being bullied, so she forced herself to live as a boy. After witnessing Yin Jian's skills at the Westgate Market, Yin Mu's face was full of envy. If she had such skills, she wouldn't have been bullied all the time. When she found out that Yin Jian was her biological sister, and recalled the way Yin Jian had protected her, she burst into tears on the spot. She was also someone who had her elder sister protecting her. In response to the crowd's bewilderment, Yin Jian spoke calmly, "I am. Just because you say so. What if it wasn't? How can you prove that you're Yin Jian who was lost 15 years ago?" When the old lady heard that Yin Jian was her long-lost granddaughter, not only was she not agitated, she glanced at Yin Jian instead. To the old lady, other than boys, everyone else had nothing to do with her. Before Yin Jian came out of Zhou Ran's womb, the old lady was so nice to Zhou Ran that she looked like she was going to dig her heart out. When Yin Jian was born naturally, and it was a girl, the old lady rushed home from the hospital in a huff and did not visit Zhou Ran again. When she found out about Yin Jian's identity, the old lady was not surprised at all. Instead, she loathed her even more. She must be my Jianer. From the first time I saw her, I knew she must be. I can feel it. She's my Jian. Zhou Ran shuddered as the stack of bills in her hands fell to the floor. She rushed over to hug Yin Jian. Money was never as important as her child to Zhou Ran. Opening her mouth, Zhou Ran wanted to say something as happiness came too suddenly. She had thought about it countless times in her dream, but she could not bring herself to say it when she saw Yin Jian. "Can you call me Mom?" Zhou Ran asked, looking up at Yin Jian. Yin Jian looked back at her. Just when Zhou Ran and everyone else thought that Yin Jian would not say it, she pressed her red lips together and said expressionlessly, "Mom." "What, Mom? Stay away from the Yin family from now on. You even took my son's money. So what if you found your daughter? Don't expect my and I, to raise your daughter for you. You're the woman who lost my eldest grandson. Find my eldest grandson if you have the guts." The old lady pounced to pick up the bills on the floor and started lecturing with clicks of her tongue. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2581. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Old Madam was afraid that when Yin Jian came back, Zhou Ran would ask her son for Yin Jian's living expenses. She also hated Zhou Ran for letting her grandson, Yunju, whom she had painstakingly obtained, be abducted. "Mom!" Yin and I shouted when she heard Old Madam's words. "What's wrong? Did you rebel? And are you going to go against your mom for a woman who has nothing to do with you? Don't forget that you're going to marry Wen next month." "Wen isn't she?" Old Madam did not wait for Yin and I to finish her words. She picked up the 100 yuan that had slipped from Zhou Ran's hands and stuffed it into her arms, as if she was afraid that someone would snatch it away. She glared fiercely at Yin Jian and Zhou Ran with her round eyes, as if she was afraid that Yin Jian and Zhou Ran would snatch the 100 yuan from her arms. "Auntie, I suggest that we let her do a DNA test to know if she's Ni's daughter. After all, I is already a big shot in our company. We must always be on our guard." Shen Tuan walked to Old Madam's side and held her hand, as if she was following Old Madam's words. "You're still calling me Auntie. You and I are going to get married next month. Call me Mom." Old Madam's attitude toward Shen Tuan was completely different from Zhou Ran's. She patted the back of Shen Tuan's hand affectionately and said. After that, she looked at Zhou Ran with deep hatred and said, "Did you hear that? I want you to bring this person who claims to be your daughter to do a DNA test. Also, don't even think about getting a single cent from my family." Bang! Just after Old Madam finished speaking, Yin and I slammed her fist on a wooden table. Quang quang quang. The wooden table made a huge shaking sound. Following the shaking sound, Yin and I roared at Old Madam angrily and hoarsely. "Enough! Do you think I can't see through my own daughter? Do we need to do a DNA test to see if she's my daughter? I never agreed to the wedding next month. Get married yourself. Other than Ran, I won't marry anyone else in my life. Get out! Get out! Get out of here." Yin and I was usually an honest person, and Shen Tuan was also the reason why she liked Yin and I. If she married Yin and I in the future, with Ni's temper, Yin Ni's temper, she would be in charge of Yin Ni's way. Yin and I. Yin and I old madam. And was? Old Yin was? Was old with da? Translation was translation old? Was translation. Translation? How? You. Damned woman, remember this. Don't think that I don't know how much money my and I, borrowed from you. Should that money with Yin, should that amount, it at least money. If you don't return the money, I'll sue you in court tomorrow. Old madam was so frightened by Yin Ni's scolding that she took a few steps back. Then, she looked at Zhou Ran and screamed like a crazy woman. 100,000? After old madam screamed like a lunatic, Yin Jian looked up. Her eyes were cold, and her lips moved slightly as she spoke. That's right. 100,000. Your mother won't be able to save this amount of money, even if she works her whole life. You're still pestering and I, even after you're divorced. Your mother is the mistress. Old madam glared at Yin and I. Just when old madam thought that Yin Jian would refute her verbally, or be surprised that Zhou Ran owed her family so much money, Yin Jian's lips moved slightly. Oh, 100,000. In the next moment, everyone saw Yin Jian walk to the side and take the travel bag that she had left at the door. Then in front of everyone, she unzipped the travel bag and turned it upside down. Everyone saw a large stack of US dollar bills falling out of the travel bag. At that moment, Yin Jian squatted down and picked up a stack of US dollar bills from the ground. She waved it at old madam and said expressionlessly, "This stack of 10,000 US dollars is equivalent to more than 60,000 renminbi. I have 500,000 US dollars here, which is more than 3 million renminbi. Old woman, is that enough to pay you back?" Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2582. The stacks of banknotes were dug out from the travel bag. Although they weren't red Grandpa Mao banknotes, none of the people present had ever seen so much money in their lives. At this moment, they were all shocked and stood rooted to the ground. The old lady's eyes widened. Her pair of black eyes darted left and right back and forth. Her face looked as if she had eaten feces and instantly turned as white as ice. Enough. The old lady looked as if she had been possessed by a ghost as she walked towards Yin Jian. Her eyes were filled with the pile of US dollar bills in front of Yin Jian. Just as the old lady was about to reach Yin Jian in an obsessive manner, a cold smile appeared on Yin Jian's face. Yin Jian's lips curved slightly. Unknowingly, a lighter appeared in Yin Jian's hand. This scene made Shinta-1, the old lady, Yin and I, Zhou Ran, and Yin Ran's eyes widen in shock. What are you doing? What are you doing, child? No. The old lady rushed over like a lunge. However, Yin Jian was one step ahead of her. In front of the old lady, she burned the pile of US dollar bills to ashes. Just as the few people present held their breaths in shock and looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief, Yin Jian's cold voice suddenly rang out. Unfortunately, I won't give you a single cent of this money even if I burn it to ashes. So much money was burned to ashes by Yin Jian in an instant. The old lady and Shinta-Wen's expressions were the most interesting. It was equivalent to 3 million yuan in banknotes. It was money that they could never earn in their lifetime. Yet it was burned by Yin Jian just like that. Oh, the money! The old lady was so angry at Yin Jian that her eyes rolled back, and she fainted in front of everyone present. Sister, you're so domineering. Yin Lian clapped her hands and looked at Yin Jian with admiration. But sister, how did you get so much money? Yin Ran asked the question that Zhou Ran, Yin and I, and Shinta-1 wanted to know. The money belonged to Yin Jian, and Yin Jian had been separated from them for 15 years. Therefore, Zhou Ran and Yin and I would not say anything about Yin Jian burning the money. After all, she was her biological mother. Yin and I had already helped the old lady up and rushed to the hospital. Shinta-1 also left. After Yin and I helped the old lady to the hospital, and Shinta-1 left, Yin Jian said calmly, "It's fake." Puff. Sis, you still have the habit of carrying fake money with you. That old woman was scared out of her wits just now. I've long found her an eyesore. How infuriating. She deserves to be angered to death. Yin Lian laughed. Lianer, I'm making dinner. Take Jian out for a walk. Zhou Ran looked at Yun Jian excitedly. I know, Mom. We'll go out for a walk. We'll be back soon. Yun Lian knew that Zhou Ran was going to make something delicious for dinner, so she pulled Yun Jian out excitedly. The residences in the slums were close to each other, and the surroundings were messy. It was simple and ordinary, and some places even emitted an awful stench. Yun Meng took Yun Jian away from the slum and went to a school that was equally shabby, but had a better environment in comparison. Sis, this is the high school I'm studying in. I'll take you there to take a look. It's Saturday today, and there's no one in school. Yun Ran addressed Yun Jian as her sister smoothly, hooking her arm around Yun Jian's as they walked into the shabby school. Right, sis. What have you been doing all these years outside? Yun Ran pulled Yun Jian through the school gate excitedly. She suddenly thought of something and turned to ask Yun Jian. Yun Jian's eyes glinted at Yun Ran's question. Under Yun Ran's expectant gaze, she confessed, I am. Chapter 2583. Page 1/1. Yunjung. It's you. Before Yun Jian could say anything, a male voice came from the entrance of the tiny high school. Upon hearing this, Yun Jian glanced sideways. Then he saw 3 groups of more than a dozen boys walking over with basketballs. The boy who spoke was the one at the front of the group. He had short hair and was wearing a basketball jersey. He was about 185 meters tall. He wasn't the most good-looking among the group of boys, but he was the type that was very pleasing to the eye. Following behind these boys was a group of infatuated girls. Even if this high school wasn't famous, there would always be good-looking boys and girls. This was inevitable. Zhou Qiong, are you guys practicing basketball here again? Yining looked at the boy and asked. Yun Jian could clearly see Yin Yao blushing slightly when she asked Zhou Qiong a question. Yes. Do you want to come along? Zhou Ming seemed to treat Yun Mu as a boy. He walked over and placed his hand on Yun Mu's shoulder in a very natural manner before asking. As he spoke, Zhou Qiong saw Yun Jian. He nodded and smiled at her before asking Yun Jian. Who is this? I've never seen him before. That's her elder sister. Yun Mu rushed to reply. As she spoke, Yun Mu's face was filled with happiness. Your sister? Your sister is back? Haha. I really wish you all the best. The boy named Zhou Qiong obviously knew about Yin Luo's family background, so he laughed and said, Hello, Sister Yun Jian. My name is Zhou Qiong. I'm a member of our school's basketball team. Zhou Qiong took the initiative to greet Yun Jian. Hello. For the first time, Yun Jian responded. Zhou Qiong, it's time to continue practicing basketball. It won't be long before we have to compete. One of Zhou Qiong's brothers shouted at Zhou Qiong from afar. Okay, Zhou Qiong replied. She then said something to Yun Ran and Yun Jian before walking over. Yun Jian accompanied Yun Yao to watch Zhou Qiong, and the others practice basketball for half an hour. At 6 o'clock, the sun was about to set. Zhou Qiong wiped the sweat off his face with his clothes and walked to Yun Yao's side. Yun Mu was holding a kettle in her hand, knowing that she had prepared it for Zhou Qiong. Zhou Qiong, I've prepared some water for you. Just as Zhou Qiong was about to reach Yun Yao, a girl suddenly spoke up. As she spoke, the girl handed her water bottle to Zhou Qiong. Yun Han, why are you fighting with me over the water? You're not a girl. What if people see you handing water to Zhou Qiong and think you're a girl? The girl glanced at Yun Mu with disdain, before passing her water to Zhou Qiong before Yun Mu could. No need, I'm not thirsty. Seeing this, Zhou Qiong smiled awkwardly. Actually, it was not that Zhou Qiong was not thirsty, but he did not want to make things difficult for Yun Yao. Alright. Hearing this, the girl put the water back. The girl's name is Wan Yu. Bro, I'm here. Guess what I found for you? At this moment, a boy walked over mysteriously with a pile of things. What's that? Why are you acting so mysterious? Someone sat on the steps and asked while drinking water. It's a gun. One of my brothers stole it from home. I heard that it was used during the war in the last century. The parts are all scattered now, but you can admire it. The boy walked to the front of the crowd and showed the parts in his arms to everyone. Seeing this, everyone surrounded him. When these parts are put together, it's the gun that's often shown in movies. Wan Yu, the girl who was fighting with Yun, ran over the water bottle, looked at the parts in the boy's arms in amazement. Yeah, just by looking at these parts, I can't tell what kind of gun it is. The boy holding the parts nodded when he heard Wan Yu's words. Just as everyone was looking curiously at the parts in the boy's arms, a beautiful girl's voice suddenly sounded. The meaning of her words was like a thunderbolt that struck everyone on the spot and made them stare fiercely. This is a Type 64 handgun, the first handgun developed by Country Z. It was designed in 1964 and produced in 1980. It's a more ideal weapon for individual self-defense. Top reading website M. Chapter 2584. Yin Jian's voice reverberated throughout the hall. Everyone was stunned when they heard what she said. Everyone slowly turned their heads to look at Yin Jian. Their eyes were filled with shock. You know guns? The boy who was holding a pile of gun parts for everyone to admire couldn't hide his shock when he heard Yin Jian's words. Wan Yu, the girl who had fought with Yin Jian to pass water to Zhou Qiong, and said that Yin Jian was a man. She also looked at Yin Jian in shock. The girls present were all good-looking. Yin Jian was the most outstanding among them. Everyone was a high school student who had never been out of the city and didn't have many distracting thoughts. Therefore, no one paid too much attention to Yin Jian. Although the people here were poor, they hadn't gone out into society. Therefore, everyone's thoughts were relatively simple. I'm interested, Yin Jian said under everyone's gaze. Interested? Even if you're interested, your family probably doesn't have the funds to let people read about guns, right? Wan Yu interrupted Yin Jian, as though she was eager to interrupt Yin Jian. As soon as she finished speaking, Wan Yu immediately turned to look at the boy holding all kinds of gun parts and added, Mu Zishi, other than loving to play basketball, I often see you guys reading books about guns after class, right? She's a girl. Her understanding of guns definitely isn't as profound as yours. Moreover, Mu Zishi, the gun you brought has already been turned into parts. How could she possibly recognize it? Wan Yu didn't hate Yin Jian to the bone at first sight. She also didn't have a reason to hate Yin Jian. However, girls generally held hostility towards women who weren't their friends. At least in their words, they wanted to gain an absolute advantage. Wan Yu was like that. Wan Yu, she's Yin Jian's older sister. Zhou Qiong awkwardly reminded Wan Yu, who thought she was very smart. Hearing this, Wan Yu's face stiffened. That's right. She actually forgot that Yin Jian didn't grow up with Yin Mu. Yin Han's elder sister had been separated when she was 5 years old. This was something that everyone knew. If that was the case, then what she said just now would not be valid. Now no one knew where Yin Jian had gone, and what she had done in the past 15 years. Cough. We only know the basics. Later my brother will come over. My brother has a deep understanding of handguns. He can answer whatever we don't understand. I got this gun from one of my buddies. I want to show it to everyone first. Mu Zishi broke the awkward atmosphere as he opened his mouth and laughed. Actually, no one believed what Yin Jian said. After all, she was a girl. Would she really be interested in guns? But other people were not like Wan Yu speaking so firmly. Yin Jian naturally saw it, but she didn't say anything else after saying that. Obviously, she didn't care about what others thought. Sister, I believe you. Yin Mu suddenly leaned over to Yin Jian's ear and whispered. Yin Jian heard this and looked up at Yin Mu. The moment Yin Jian looked over, Yin Mu winked at Yin Jian. Hey, my brother is here. Mu Zi, she saw a boy walking over from not far away and stood up excitedly. Go Zi, hurry up and come over here. What kind of gun is this? Tell us. Mu Zi, she saw his buddy and raised the pile of gun parts in his hand from afar. Hearing this, the people around them pricked up their ears, as if they were waiting to watch a show. Just as everyone pricked up their ears to listen, Mu Zishi's buddy blushed as he was stared at by so many people. He touched his mouth and then said, I'm sorry. He touched his hand and said, I heard that this gun was taken from a foreigner. As soon as he said that, everyone looked at Yin Jian suspiciously. If it was taken from a foreigner, then it definitely wasn't a gun from Country Z. It definitely wasn't a Type 64 pistol either. It had to be a foreigner's gun. It was named after a foreigner. Just as everyone was sizing up Yin Jian, Mu Zixi buddy continued and said something that stunned everyone. The model of the pistol is a Type 64. It's a handgun developed by Country Z. It's a type of self-defense weapon. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2585. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. When everyone heard Brother Mu Zixi say that the handgun was taken from a foreigner, they mistakenly thought that the handgun was made by a foreigner. That meant that the handgun was definitely made by a foreigner and would not be named after the model name of the handgun in Country Z. What Mu Zixi said after that was like a huge slap to everyone who doubted Yin Jian, a resounding slap to their faces. What? Dog, what did you say? Repeat it for us. Mu Zixi heard his brother's words, and his face suddenly changed. He looked at his brother and said loudly. Mu Zixi's heart was filled with a huge question mark. He frowned slightly and swept his eyes across the scene. He was stunned for a moment before he said, I said that the model of this gun is a Type 64 handgun that was developed by Country Z? What? Did I say something wrong? Just as Mu Zixi's brother finished speaking, Mu Zixi had already jumped down the stairs and walked towards Yin Jian. At the same time, Mu Zixi lightly spoke to Yin Jian. F***ck. You really know guns. Awesome. Just look at these scattered parts, and you can recognize the model of the gun. I almost thought that you were in the military. After Mu Zixi's words, his brother finally understood what was going on. Mu Zixi's brother stared at Yin Jian in shock as well, and spoke to her in front of the stunned crowd. Brother Yin, you're the one who's being bullied. I have studied guns for so many years. This gun is scattered, and I can't even recognize the model of the gun at a glance. May I ask, how did you recognize the gun at a glance? Mu Zixi's brother was called Jingcheng. He was a very casual person. Usually, other than understanding his own hobbies, he didn't like to talk to others. If he was asked a question in public, he would blush. Now that he heard Mu Zixi's words and knew that Yin Jian was able to recognize the type of pistol with just one glance, Jingcheng's interest was immediately piqued. He rushed to Yin Jian, as if he had picked up a bargain. In fact, it was not only the surrounding people who wanted to know the answer to this question. Even Yin Mu was filled with doubts. What had happened to her sister, Yin Jian, in the past 15 years? She guessed it by chance, right? Wan Yi still didn't believe it. She glanced at Yin Jian, and was silent for 2 seconds before speaking. Sure enough, after Wan Yi said this, Yin Jian said, It's just a feeling. Did he recognize the model of this pistol just by feeling? To put it nicely, he recognized the pistol based on his intuition. But to put it bluntly, wasn't it just a coincidence? Wan Yu spread her hands and made an expression that said, Look, that's the truth. Wan Yu lived in the poorest slums of Tsuzhou. She was also a frog at the bottom of a well. She didn't know much about pistols, and naturally didn't know that there were many types of pistols in the world. For someone who didn't know much about pistols, it was simply a fantasy if you blindly guessed the type of pistol. If someone who didn't know much about pistols guessed it one day, then congratulations, you could immediately buy a lottery ticket and win the 5 million grand prize. Coincidence? You don't know how many types of pistols there are in the world. Jingcheng argued with Wan Yu. Then, when Wan Yu's expression changed, he asked Yin Jian again, Then how did you recognize the model of the pistol by feeling? Can you teach me? When Jingcheng spoke to Yin Jian again, he had already changed the way he addressed her from you to you. Who knew that after Jingcheng asked this, Yin Jian would lightly pat her pants that were stained with dust from sitting on the steps, and pull Yin Mu down the steps. Everyone thought that Yin Jian didn't plan to pay attention to Jingcheng, and was about to leave. But who knew that when Yin Jian walked halfway, she suddenly turned around. Her beautiful eyes flashed sharply, but she only left Jingcheng with a sentence that everyone present didn't quite understand, but they trembled from head to toe. One day, when you have no choice but to hold all kinds of guns in your hands and fight enemies, you will naturally be able to recognize the type of gun by feeling. Translator, Hengyi Translations Editor, Hengyi Translations. Chapter 2586. Zhou Ran's sister-in-law came to visit. Yun Jian's words were very subtle, giving people a feeling that they didn't fully understand what she meant. However, if one thought about it carefully, what she said was not difficult to understand. The knowledge learned from books was far less clear than the knowledge gained from an hour of actual operation. For example, if you were to learn English from books for 6 years in primary school, 3 years in middle school, and 3 years in high school, a total of 12 years of learning, it would definitely be better than throwing you into an English-speaking country for 2 years. All of Jing Qing's knowledge of firearms came from books. This kind of knowledge could at best be regarded as rote memorization. What Yun Jian meant was the actual operation. When you are able to operate all kinds of firearms with ease, even if you don't know what kind of firearm it is, or even if you don't know it yourself, it will be deeply imprinted in your mind and can't be erased. Let's go home for dinner. Everyone around them was stupefied by Yun Jian's words. It was not only because Yun Jian was able to say something so profound, but more importantly, it was because Yun Jian was able to say something like that. Did that mean that she was very knowledgeable about firearms, just as she said? She had once had to hold all kinds of guns in her hands to fight the enemy? Country Z was a country that prohibited the use of firearms, and Yun Jian was Yun Mu's biological sister, who had been separated from her for 15 years. If you compare this, in that case, where had Yun Ying's sister Yun Jian gone all these years? The hearts of everyone present were filled with doubt, and they urgently wanted to know the answer. However, by the time everyone wanted to ask, Yun Jian had already walked far away with Yun Mu. Zhou Qiong, see you tomorrow. After Yun Yao and Yun Jian were more than 10 meters away from the crowd, she turned around and waved at Zhou Qiong. See you tomorrow. Zhou Qiong nodded at Yun Lian. Her short black hair was very dazzling under the setting sun. Even though Yun Mu had thousands of questions that she wanted to ask Yun Jian personally, she still chose to ask after dinner. After returning home, Zhou Ran had already prepared a very sumptuous dinner. A small fish the size of a hand, a plate of homegrown vegetables, a nest of pickled meat and bamboo shoots, and a plate of glutinous rice intestines stir-fried with meat. The last 2 dishes were produced during the new year. Because Zhou Ran's family raised pigs, she was given some pork. She developed the pork, and even made glutinous rice sausages. If it was in the past, this amount of food was enough to last Zhou Ran and Yun Yao for 5 days. But today, when Yun Jian came back, Zhou Ran compared the dinner she made in the evening with the previous one. It was much more sumptuous. Jian I don't know what kind of life you've been living all these years outside. I'm sorry. Zhou Ran's tears fell again as she spoke. It's okay. I've been living well all these years. Yun Jian pressed her lips together and pulled a napkin from the table to pass it to Zhou Ran. Zhou Ran quickly wiped her tears away. Eat. This dish isn't particularly good, but try it. Try Mom's cooking. Zhou Ran stood up to take some food for Yun Jian. Yun Jian ate everything that Zhou Ran took for her. To Yun Jian, she did not have a strong relationship with Zhou Ran since they had not known each other for long. However, Zhou Ran was someone Yun Jian cherished greatly. Clang clang clang. While Yun Jian and Zhou Ran were in the middle of their meal, a woman in her 40s rushed in. The woman was holding a metal pot. When she saw Zhou Ran, she placed the pot in front of Zhou Ran and started yelling. Well done, Zhou Ran. You're really something. How dare you send my mom to the hospital after she fainted from anger? Do you have a conscience? None of us have ever mistreated you when we were in the Yin family. How shameless can you be? My brother has already shown off to you. You're still clinging to him. Chapter 2587. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The person who came was none other than Yun Ni's younger sister, Yun Shan. Yun Shan was Yun Ni's younger sister, and Zhou Ran's sister-in-law. In a way, she was still Yun Jian's aunt in name. When Yun and Yun Shan's mother, the old lady, was sent to the hospital because of Yun Jian, Yun Shan rushed over with the iron pot in her house. Yun Shan was furious. She heard that her mother was sent to the hospital because of Zhou Ran's eldest daughter. She was preparing dinner when she heard that Zhou Ran's eldest daughter had returned and was sent to the hospital because of Zhou Ran's eldest daughter. What? That old lady was sent to the hospital because of her own anger. What does it have to do with my mother? Also, when my mother was in your house, she suffered so much because of you. You should be the ones who are shameless. My father and mother were in love with each other. Why did you have to force them to divorce? Old woman. Yin Shan was not one to be scolded. She looked at Yin Shan, who had rushed into her house, and retorted rudely. You. Yin Shan was angered by Yin Shan and took a deep breath. Just as she was about to speak, Zhou Ran pulled Yin Shan over and said to Yin Shan, "You know very well what kind of life I've been living in the Yin family. I, Zhou Ran, don't owe you anything. It's not your turn to interfere in the matter between me and I, you little sister-in-law. Yin and I is still unmarried, and so am I, Zhou Ran. Even if we are divorced, which law forbids us from remarrying. This is my house now. If you don't leave, don't blame me for being merciless. I will sue you for trespassing." Zhou Ran was different from Qin Yiru. Zhou Ran could endure the Yin family's anger because she had married into the Yin family and treated them as her own family. But now that the Yin family had done things so ruthlessly, Zhou Ran naturally couldn't stick to their cold butts. You. Zhou Ran, you. Yin Shan was speechless. This was a slum, and the people who lived there were not very rich. Other than the slums in Suzhou, the housing prices in other places were very high. Therefore, both Zhou Ran and the Yin family lived in the slums, which were very close to each other. They couldn't afford to move to another place. Therefore, whether it was the classmates that Yin Jian had met at Yining High School, the Yin family, or old Madame Yin, they all lived near the slums. Yin Shan was just about to speak when she heard a sudden clamor outside. Then a series of bang 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 sounds suddenly rang out. Upon hearing this, Yin Jian's narrowed eyes flashed sharply. What happened? Yin Lian was shocked. The law and order in Suzhou was not stable. Z country prohibited the use of handguns, but there were still many gangsters who carried guns. Compared to Longmen City, the gangsters in Suzhou were more cunning. Therefore, the occasional gunshot was not surprising. Yin Shan, your Xiangzi is being hunted down. I told you that nothing good will come out of your Xiangzi, hanging out with people from the black market every day. Go down and take a look. The residents near the slums knew each other. One of them rushed to Zhou Ran's house and spoke to Yin Shan. Yin Shan's face paled at the words, and she ran down the stairs quickly. The resident obviously knew many people. She glanced at Zhou Ran and hesitated for 2 seconds before speaking to Zhou Ran anxiously. Although you and Yin and I are divorced, I can see that both of you love each other as much as before. I saw Yin and I and Xiangzi together outside just now. They're probably being hunted down together now. Zhou Ran stumbled down the stairs as soon as she finished speaking. Yin Lian and Yin Jian followed closely behind her. After going around 2 junctions, they were getting closer to the sound of gunshots. Yin Jian saw Zhou Qiang, Wan Yuyu Mu Zixi, and Jing Cheng, whom she had met in school earlier. They were standing there after hearing the gunshots. They were still some distance away from where the gunshots were, but when they heard the noise, all the neighbors came out to see what was going on. It was common knowledge that Yin Shan's husband was a gangster. What's going on? Zhou Ran rushed over to ask. Judging by the sound, it's not good. I heard that Yin and I sent her mother to the hospital and came back. How did this happen? An old man spoke anxiously as he propped himself on the ground with his walking stick. What should we do then? Zhou Ran's face was pale. I've already asked someone to contact the police station. I just don't know if we can make it in time, someone said. Just as the words were spoken, the group saw a slender silhouette walking past them. Yin Jian was walking around the crowd toward the source of the gunshots. Jianer, what are you doing? Zhou Ran hurried over to stop her. Sis, I know you're worried and so am I. But there's nothing we can do if we go. Yin Lian spoke up as well, her panicked expression betraying her. Just when everyone thought that Yin Jian was frightened by the incident, they saw Yin Jian pulling out a shiny silver pistol from her waist case, right in front of Zhou Qiang, Wan Yiyu, Mu Zixi, Jing Cheng, and everyone else. Everyone was stunned. Yun Jian glanced sideways at Yun Jian with a red smirk on her face, as she uttered something that caused an uproar and stupefied everyone present. Didn't you want to know what I've been doing all these years outside? I'll tell you with my actions now. Translator. Hengyi Translations Editor. Hengyi Translations. Chapter 2588. As soon as Yun Jian finished speaking, she stood in front of everyone. Her slender, tall, and flawless figure deeply attracted everyone's attention. Coupled with the words that just came out of her red lips, Yun Lian, who was standing in the front and looking at Yun Jian, suddenly widened her dark eyes. It was a shiny silver Browning pistol. The pistol was very light, and made people want to reach out and touch it just by looking at it. At least Jing Cheng, who loved guns very much, widened his eyes. He was shocked that Yun Jian had a pistol, and envied the pistol in Yun Jian's hand. That's a Browning pistol made in Country M. It's very popular on the market, and one of the most difficult pistols to get. Just when everyone was shocked that Yun Jian had a gun in her hand, whether it was Wan Yuyu, Mu Zixi, Zhou Qiong Yun Ran, Yun Lian, Zhou Ran, or Yun Jian's nominal aunt, Yun Shan, all of them widened their eyes after Yun Jian finished speaking. Jing Cheng's surprised and stunned words were also heard. At the end of his words, everyone was stunned again by Jing Cheng's words. They were not only shocked by Yun Jian's words, but also shocked by the gun in Yun Jian's hand. They even questioned what kind of person Yun Jian was. She could actually get the most popular pistol on the market, which was extremely difficult to get. She was not an ordinary person. She could do it. He was indeed a young man who loved guns to the bone. Even at this time, he still remembered the model of the gun. Yun Jian smiled. It had been less than 20 seconds since Yun Jian had taken out the silver pistol and said those words. After hearing Jing Cheng's words, she took out another Beretta 92F pistol from the waist case on her other side, which was so hidden that no one could see it, and threw it at Jing Cheng. Yun Jian suddenly threw a gun at him. Jing Cheng didn't know why. He hurriedly caught the Beretta 92F that Yun Jian threw at him. When he raised his head, Yun Jian had already disappeared. He only left behind a sentence that made Jing Cheng's blood boil. Protect my sister and mother for me, and I'll give you this pistol. The group of people who were left behind blinked their eyes fiercely. Their hearts were filled with complex emotions. Especially Wan Yuyu, her expression changed the most. Yun Lian lived like a boy and even fought with boys. She did not act like a girl at all. This was the reason why Wan Yuyu had always mocked Yun Mu. When he first met Yun Jian, he thought that as Yun Jian's older sister, Yun Jian should be gentle and virtuous. But she actually carried such a dangerous handgun with her at all times. The girls in the Yun family were each more ferocious than the other. Were they all the same as the boys? No, they were even more manly than the boys. In an alley at the entrance of the slum, Yun Shan's husband Xiangzi dragged Yun and I into an alley to hide. The two of them hid behind a pile of garbage that was 5 meters high at the entrance of the alley. Yun Shan's husband Xiangzi was called Wen Jingxiang. Unlike his wife, Yun Shan, Wen Jingxiang was a very upright person. In his early years, because his family was poor and could not afford to eat, they could not even afford to raise the children at home. Therefore, when Jingxiang joined the black market gang in Suzhou, after rolling around in the gang for a few years, Wen Jingxiang was now a well-known figure in the Suzhou gang. However, because of this he had made many enemies. This time, the person who suddenly chased after him was his mortal enemy. Yin and I, you go first. Go around the back of the alley. Run. When Jingxiang saw that the road was blocked, he pushed Yun and I and shouted, "Ha ha ha! Run! No one can run away." As soon as Wen Jingxiang finished speaking, 4 or 5 pistols were aimed at Wen Jingxiang and Yin and I from different angles. A man with a big X scar on his face appeared in front of Wen Jingxiang and Yin and I. He smiled wickedly. "Wen Jingxiang, I caught you this time. You're dead. You'll die on your own. You even dragged a relative down with you. How nice." The man glared at Yin and I fiercely, waved his hand at his subordinates and shouted, "Fire!" Beat the two of them into a hornet's nest. Bang 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 bang. As soon as the man finished speaking, a series of gunshots rang out. The man's 5 subordinates, who were holding guns and pointing the muzzles at Wen Jingxiang and Yun and I, were shot in the wrists one after another along with the gunshots. The guns fell to the ground. The man's subordinates held their wrists and shouted. When the man saw this, he was so scared that his face turned pale. He quickly turned his head to look. 10 meters away, he saw a young girl standing on the second-floor balcony of a house. She calmly put away her pistol and looked at him coldly. Then she said something that would send people to hell. Who dares to touch a strand of my father's hair? I'll blow your head off. Come. Wonderful book house. Chapter 2589. The man's expression changed drastically when he saw his 5 subordinates being shot by Yun Jian in the wrists that were holding their guns. While the man was still in shock, Yun Jian was already holding onto the second-floor balcony that was more than 10 meters away. She jumped from the simple balcony that was 3 meters above the ground to the flat ground easily. Then, her long ponytail swayed at her waist as she walked over like the wind. Yun Jian was dressed in a black top and loose black pants. She was holding a shiny silver pistol in her hand. She looked like the queen of the night, showing off her graceful figure in the evening that was about to descend the mountain. Jian Jianer. Yun and I stared at the silver pistol in Yun Jian's hand in disbelief. His expression was terrifyingly dark. Yun and I, this is the daughter you brought home yourself? When Zhengxiang's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared blankly. As a member of the black market, how could he not know about such an aura? Yun Ni's daughter that had been lost for 15 years. In the 15 years that they were separated, could it be that? F***ck. Consider yourselves lucky. It won't be this easy next time. The man with the huge X scar on his face turned and ran after he said that when he realized that the timing was not right. When his subordinates saw this, they also chased after the man with the big X scar on his face. Wen Jingxiang and Yun and I breathed a huge sigh of relief when they saw this. Yun and I, your daughter is amazing. If it wasn't for your daughter Wen Jingxiang held his arm that was grazed just now and told Yun and I. However, just as he said that, bang! A gunshot that startled the birds on the telephone pole and sent them flying away suddenly rang out when Wen Jingxiang was halfway through his conversation with Yin and I. On the other side, the scarred man, who had a big X on his face, was about to run away when a bright bullet pierced through the middle of his head. The scarred man's body swayed, and his footsteps stopped. In the next second, he fell to the ground with a plop and no longer moved. F***ck. F***ck. Yin and I, your daughter. Seeing this, Wen Zhengxiang stood up in shock. He covered the abrasions on his arm and ran to where the scarred man had fallen. In this era, it was illegal to kill people. But generally in a place like Suzhou, there were more hooligans and gangsters. If you had someone to protect you, it would be fine. It was common for people to die in the black market. However, Wen Jingxiang did not expect that Yun Jian would actually kill someone. She was just a teenage girl. What had he encountered in the past? After killing someone, he didn't even bat an eyelid. Bring your leader's body back. Tell your gang members that if they want revenge, come to 309, Jindonkyo Road in the slums and look for me, Yun Jian. Without waiting for Wen Jingxiang to speak, Yun Jian put away her gun and coldly spoke to the dead man's subordinates. When the man's subordinates heard this, they were stunned. In the next second, they lifted the man's body and left as if they were fleeing. It was only when everything quieted down that Wen Zhengxiang looked at Yun Jian. Scratching his head throbbing, he looked at her and said, I'm sorry. How could you kill him? You'll have to go to jail. Yun and I also walked over, trembling all over. She was trembling because Yun and I was afraid that her daughter would be forcibly arrested and sent to jail as soon as she came back. It was all his fault. It was all because he, as a father, did not do his duty and did not educate her properly. Yun and I also scratched her head. Just as Yun and I and Wen Jingxiang looked anxious, Yun Jian suddenly spoke. Her words were still as cold as ice. You have to dig up the roots to cut the weeds. He deserved to die. Chapter 2590. What kind of environment made Yun Jian the person she was today? Yin and when Zhengxiang didn't understand. The two of them hurriedly brought Yin Jian back to Yin Ni's house. The neighbors who were standing at the intersection and didn't dare to go forward when they heard the gunshots had already gone home. Only Yin Ran's classmates, Zhou Qiang, Wan Yuyu, Mu Zishi, Jing Cheng, and Yin Shan followed in. Dad, what's wrong with you guys being so flustered? Also, you guys should be fine just now, right? Dad, did sister save you guys? Sister is also a gangster like uncle-in-law, right? Yin Ran looked at Yin and asked curiously. As she spoke, she looked up at her uncle-in-law, Wen Zhengxiang. Lian, let your classmates go home first. Yin and glanced at Zhou Qiang and the others, and said to Yin Ran in a panic. Uncle, we won't say anything. We just want to hear how Yin Ran's sister saved you and uncle-in-law just now. Wan Yu said after Yin and finished speaking. This was an interesting matter. Of course, everyone wanted to know what had happened as soon as possible. Therefore, none of them were willing to leave. You guys, nothing happened just now. Nothing happened. Yin and said against her will. As she spoke, Yin and pressed her fingers to her forehead and revealed a helpless expression. Once this kind of thing happened, the gang that the man who was shot by Yin Jian belonged to would definitely come looking for them. Just now that man did want to kill Yin and Wen Zhengxiang. But that man definitely had someone protecting him. Now, Yin Jian killed him instead. Yin and come here. Wen Zhengxiang waved at Yin and When Yin and came over, Wen Zhengxiang leaned over and whispered in Yin Ni's ear. I'll go to our gang and beg our boss to see if he can save your daughter. As he spoke, Wen Zhengxiang ran out of the door. Xiangzi, please. Yin and shouted at Wen Zhengxiang. Both of them thought that Yin Jian had killed that man and had no power or influence. She was doomed for the rest of her life. However, what they didn't know was that when the two of them were extremely anxious, Yin Jian was sitting on the bench with a calm expression, without the slightest trace of panic. Zhe Province, Min City. Mu Ying's house. Mu Ying, who had taken the medicine made by Yin Jian, was completely fine. It wouldn't be a problem for Mu Ying to live for a few more decades. The feeling of her body rejecting her soul had already disappeared. Mu Ying and Mad Dragon began to live a sweet life again. However, Mu Ying found that after she gave her body to Mad Dragon, although the two of them ate a lot of forbidden fruit, Mad Dragon didn't take off his shirt every time they did it. Even when she boldly proposed to take a bath with him with a blushing face, Wild Dragon rejected her flatly. This made Mu Ying very uncomfortable. However, she wanted to take a bath with him. Humph. Walala. The sound of Mad Dragon taking a shower came from the bathroom. Mu Ying took the bathroom key and quietly walked to the bathroom door. She inserted the key into the bathroom door lock. With a kacha sound, the door was opened by her. However, when she entered the door, Mad Dragon had already put on a bathrobe and was looking at her with his arms crossed. Seeing this, Mu Ying pouted and turned to walk out. Break up. I want to run away from home. Just as she turned around and took 2 steps, Mad Dragon rushed over and hugged Mu Ying from behind. I won't allow it. Even if you die, you can only die in my arms. Mu Ying took advantage of the moment when Mad Dragon reached out and hugged her back to pull off the tie on Mad Dragon's bathrobe. She turned around and looked at Mad Dragon's upper body with a look of success on her face. However, what she saw were deep and shallow marks that were obviously imprinted not long ago. It looked like a chest that had been deliberately tortured. The wounds were shocking. Calm. Wonderful book house. Calm. Chapter 2591. These marks and wounds were all left by Mad Dragon when he learned about Mu Ying's physical condition and asked the perverted doctor's son for medicine. The perverted doctor's son burned them with iron and branded them. Even a thick-skinned person would not be able to withstand this kind of punishment that was similar to ancient torture. But Mad Dragon endured it for the sake of his beloved woman. He could have avoided this punishment. With Mad Dragon's own strength, he could have beaten the perverted doctor's son hundreds of times. But for Mu Ying, he did not say a word and forced himself not to use his strength to endure this punishment. This is... Mu Ying saw the scars on Mad Dragon's chest and instantly burst into tears. She carefully stroked Mad Dragon's chest and said with a flustered expression, This This is the medicine you and SS asked for me last time? Muing was very smart and hit the nail on the head with one sentence. But just as Muing finished speaking and her tears were about to flow out of her eyes again, Mad Dragon suddenly bent down and kissed her eyes, kissing away the tears that were about to flow out of her eyes. So you can't say anything about leaving me again in this life, or I'll kill you with my own hands and accompany you to hell. Even if he went to hell, he, Mad Dragon, would never let go of her hand. She could only be his woman. If not, then they would go to hell together. Hey Province Tsuzhou. When Zhengxiang, who had hurriedly ran to find his gang's boss, returned to Zhou Ran's house. As soon as he entered Zhou Ran's house, when Zhengxiang rushed into Zhou Ran's house and said to Yun Jian anxiously, without caring that Zhou Qiao, Wan Yuyu, Mu Zixi, Jing Cheng, and other classmates were still there. Our boss agreed to save you, but he needs to know which gang you're from. Your gang's code name. When Zhengxiang said this, his face was filled with anxiety. To Zhengxiang, it was because of him that Yun Jian was in this situation. Therefore, he had to bear this responsibility. Gang. Code name? Sister, are you really a gangster too? Yun Lian was shocked and asked in a daze. Ever since Yun Jian had said to Yun Mu before she went to save people, "Don't you want to know what I've been doing all these years? I'll use my actions to tell you." Whether it was Yun Mu or everyone present, they all thought that Yun Jian had been involved in the underworld all these years. Now that when Zhengxiang asked Yun Jian this question, everyone present was even more convinced of this point. Gangsters at such a young age, so powerful. When Mu Zixi heard this, he was somewhat stupefied. Although they didn't know what Zhengxiang meant when he said that he wanted to save Yun Jian, everyone's attention was now diverted to Yun Jian's identity. Seeing that Yun Jian didn't speak for a long time, when Zhengxiang immediately spoke. Our gang is a reputable gang in Country Z. Our position in the entire Country Z's gangs is already in the top 15, although there's still a huge gap between us and the number 1 Falcon Hall. We'll protect you. Absolutely no problem. The number 1 gang in Country Z was Falcon Hall, which was now under the control of Su Zetian. Speaking of Falcon Hall, it was practically a legend. The boss of Falcon Hall was an unfathomable woman, and the current person in charge of Falcon Hall, Su Zetian, was a very powerful person. Wow! Yun Han, your uncle-in-law is actually a member of such a powerful gang. After hearing Zhengxiang's words, Jing Cheng exclaimed to Yun Mu. Amazing! Wan Yu couldn't help but be stunned. On the other hand, when Zhengxiang's gaze was fixed on Yun Jian, just when everyone thought that Yun Jian wouldn't speak, or that she would reject Zhengxiang's claim that she was from a gang, Yun Jian suddenly said, "Do you really want to know?" "Yes, because only by knowing this will our gang's boss be willing to send people to protect you." When Zhengxiang said solemnly, everyone's gaze shifted to Yun Jian. At this moment, Yun Jian's red arc rose. She saw that Zhou Ran, Yin and Yun Mu were all looking at her with expressions that said they wanted to know what she had been doing all these years. Pursing her red lips, Yun Jian spoke coldly in front of everyone, but her name was like a sudden tsunami that swept through everyone's hearts. The gang I'm in is called Falcon Hall. Codename, Rakshasa, : bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2592. Page 1/1. Everyone sucked in a deep breath when they heard Falcon Hall. Yun Jian was actually from Falcon Hall. It was no wonder that she possessed such strength. Falcon Hall was indeed a legendary gang. A young girl of Yun Jian's age could be trained to such an extent. Everyone's eyes widened, and their jaws dropped when they realized that Yun Jian was actually from Falcon Hall. After all, not everyone could join a gang like Falcon Hall just because they wanted to. If the 3 words Falcon Hall had led the crowd to believe that Yun Jian had joined Falcon Hall and become an insignificant figure, it would have been the truth. Then the 2 words Rakshasa at the back smashed everyone's heads hard, causing everyone present to be stunned on the spot, unable to react for a long time. "What did you say?" When Zhengxiang couldn't help but roll his eyelids. He stared at Yun Jian in disbelief, then asked loudly and sharply, Wasn't Rakshana the woman who led Falcon Hall to become the #1 gang in Country Z in just a few years? Wasn't she supposed to be a legendary young woman in her 30s? What's wrong? How could he be so much younger than what the legends said? Mu Zishi was also looking at Yun Jian in astonishment. He licked his dry lips, completely losing his composure in front of his classmates. Obviously, there were many gangs in Suzhou, and the security there was not very good. Therefore, the people in Suzhou were more gangsters, especially those who lived in the slums. They were completely different from Qin Yiru and the others who lived in Xinjiang town in Longmen City. Everyone knew about these gangs. Mu Zishi looked at Yun Jian's back in front of him. Just as he was about to shout, he saw Yun Jian slowly turn around. Her high ponytail flowed naturally, giving off a cool and forthright feeling. All around, the silence was frightening. Yin and Zhou ran, and Yin Mu were so shocked that their faces trembled slightly. Yun Shan was pale with fright. When Zhengxiang's expression changed slightly, but he was also slightly stunned. As for Yin Mu's classmates, Zhou Qiang, Wan Yuyu, Mu Zishi and Jing Cheng, they were stunned when they heard that Yun Jian was the nationally renowned boss of Falcon Hall at such a young age. After a while, Yun Jian, who stood in front of everyone, turned slightly, her lips curling into a stunning red arc as she nodded without denying it. That's right. Falcon Hall is mine. 10 minutes later, Yun Jian sat on one of the few benches in Jiran's house, surrounded by a dozen pairs of eyes. God, I can't believe it. Falcon Hall was founded single-handedly by Yun Ai's sister. Zhou Qiong scratched her short hair and asked Yun Jian in astonishment. The legendary boss of Falcon Hall, Luo Sha, is a woman whose talent, strength, and looks are on par with hers. Looks like she really lives up to her name. Mu Zishi adjusted his glasses on the bridge of his nose and said knowledgeably, I was worried for nothing. When Zhengxiang said with a smile, as he wiped the sweat from his forehead, that he had just been scared out of. Yun Jian ignored everyone's shocked gazes. She stood up and scanned the surroundings. Then, her gaze landed on Yin and Zhou Ran and Yun Mu. She said, I can't tell you everything that happened in the past 15 years, but since I'm back, I won't let you live like that anymore. I bought a villa worth 30 million yuan in the modern villa forest on the outskirts of Suzhou. Take it as my gift to you. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2593. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. The poorest people in Suzhou lived in the slums. The wealthiest people in Suzhou lived in the modern villas in the suburbs. One would have to be worth at least 5 million yuan to move to the modern villas in the suburbs. In this era, a villa worth more than 30 million yuan was the kind of luxurious villas that were often shown in television dramas. It would take 3 to 5 minutes to drive from the villa's entrance to the Shin family's courtyard. Yun Jian's words were undoubtedly a blow to everyone present. F***ck. Mu Zishi slapped the table hard and stood up at once. Due to the shock, Mu Zishi accidentally tripped when he stood up and fell to the floor with a thud. He did not even care about the pain as he looked up at Yun Jian. F***ck. Rich. Bro. Help me check if my heart is still in my chest. Oh my god, I'm about to pee my pants. Mu Zishi grabbed his buddy Jing Cheng's hand, looking like he had aged from the shock. Cut it out. Jing Cheng hit Mu Zishi while he was down and pressed his finger against Mu Zishi's forehead. Wan Yuyu's entire body had already stiffened into a stone statue, not moving at all. Yun Shan was so envious that her saliva was about to drip onto the floor, but when Zhengxiang's expression remained unchanged. Logically, Zhou Ran and Yin and as Yun Jian's biological parents, should be overjoyed. After all, Yun Jian had been doing well all these years to be able to give them a villa worth 30 million yuan as a greeting gift. However, Zhou Ran sensed something when she heard Yun Jian's words. She rushed to Yun Jian under everyone's gaze and grabbed Yun Jian's hand to ask Yun Jian loudly, Jianer, you're still leaving? Aren't you going to stay by our side? As expected of her biological mother, Zhou Ran immediately understood the meaning behind Yun Jian's words. Big sister, are you not going to live with us? Yunyin also looked at Yun Jian with an expectant expression and asked. Everyone's heart tightened slightly. Everyone hadn't realized it earlier, but now they all realized it. Since Yun Jian was the boss of Falcon Hall, Rakshasa, it meant that her future path would be completely different from the rest of them. Naturally, her life could not be fixed in the small Tsuzhou of He province. Under the expectant gazes of Yun Mu, Zhou Ran and Yun and I, Yun Jian's raised eyebrows slightly smoothed out. She still spoke with a superficial expression, which made everyone present realize that Yun Jian's words were different from the rest. I'm sorry, but I won't stop moving forward for anyone. Staying here is not a life that suits me. From the moment I was abducted and stepped into the world I lived in, the ordinary life of an ordinary person had already left me. If I take a step back, I'll be facing a bottomless abyss. There's no room for choice. So this is all I can do for all of you. Yun Jian's words were a little confusing to those who heard her. Yun Jian's identity as the boss of Falcon Hall, Rakshasa, was destined to be extraordinary. In spite of it, the group understood the other meaning behind Yun Jian's words. Could it be that her identity was far more than that? They could not help feeling doubtful. Just as they were feeling doubtful, Yun Jian, who was sitting on the bench in front of them, stood up. Her red arc slightly pursed, and under everyone's gazes, she continued to speak to Yun and I, Zhou Ran and Yun Lian, saying a sentence that caused everyone to boil with anger. Back then my younger brother was abducted because of me. Those people kidnapped him to threaten me in order to control me. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 2594. Originally, Yun and I, Zhou Ran, and Yun Mu were still grieving over Yun Jian's unwillingness to live a normal life with them. Yun and I and Zhou Ran even hated themselves for losing Yun Jian back then, which put Yun Jian in a dilemma. The boss of Falcon Hall must have gone through a lot to get to where she was today. However, Yun and I, Zhou Ran, Yun Mu, Wen Jingxiang, Yun Shan, Zhou Ran, Wan Yuyu, and everyone else present still underestimated Yun Jian's status. They thought that being the boss of Falcon Hall was already an incredible thing. However, everyone knew that being the boss of Falcon Hall was not enough for them to go through a lot of hardships to dig out Yun Jian's family background, and then come all the way to Tsuzhou to kidnap Yun Jian's biological brother, Yun Zhu, to threaten Yun Jian. Then, did Yun Jian have another identity? When Zhengxiang widened his black eyes and stared straight at Yun Jian. What? Zhuer, he. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Zhou Ran recalled how Yun Zhu was deliberately captured. She never thought that her son was kidnapped because of her long-lost daughter. Before Zhou Ran could voice her doubts, an unpleasant voice that was hoarser and coarser than a rooster's voice came first. What? My precious eldest grandson was lost because of a woman like you, who can't even grow a beard. The voice was almost roaring. Judging from the unpleasant voice, it was hard to tell whether the voice belonged to a man or a woman. Yun Jian glanced over and saw her nominal grandmother, who had fainted because of Yun Jian's anger, rushing into the room. She was also cursing in the local language, which was extremely unpleasant to hear. The old lady hated Yun Jian because Yun Jian was her granddaughter. As soon as she entered the room, the old lady happened to hear Yun Jian say that her bastard grandson was lost because of Yun Jian. Therefore, the old lady's disgust for Yun Jian instantly exploded to the freezing point. When the old lady entered the room, everyone in the room saw that there were many people following behind her. When Zhou Ran saw the group of people following the old lady, her expression changed. You better make yourself clear. How is it because of you that my grandson was lost? Give my grandson back to me. Otherwise, the Yin family will not let you off. The old lady glared fiercely at Yun Jian with bulging eyes. Behind the old lady were all the aunts and aunts of the Yun family. Everyone who had anything to do with the Yun family was here. Everyone lived in the slums, so even the commoners had formed cliques. Whichever family had more people would be able to do whatever they wanted in the slums. Everyone look. This is my unfilial granddaughter. You heard it. My pitiful grandson was harmed by this damned woman, who can't even grow a mane after being hacked 1,000 times. I don't know who she offended, She even caused the death of my poor grandson. The old lady called Yun Jian a woman who couldn't grow a penis. Just from thinking about it, one could imagine how stubborn the old lady's preference for boys was. The old lady and the others did not hear Yun Jian calling herself the boss of Falcon Hall. Now the old lady took the lead and rushed into the room to surround Yun Jian, Zhou Ran and the others. Mom, why are you out of the hospital so soon? Yun and I glanced at the old lady. What? You unfilial son, do you want me to die in the hospital? The old lady put her hands on her hips and looked arrogant. After she finished speaking, the old lady pointed at Yun and I, and said to the group of Yun family members she brought with her, "Everyone, help me catch this unfilial son. Yun and I has to agree to the wedding next month, even if she doesn't want to. I've worked so hard to raise you. Don't tell me that I can't control you." The group of Yun family members that the old lady brought with her were all her relatives. 2 of them were the old lady's sons other than Yun and I, and a few of them were the descendants of Yun Ni's father's brothers. All her close relatives were present. After the old lady finished speaking, the group of adults from the Yun family immediately rushed over fiercely to catch Yun and I. Yun Ni's eyelids twitched. Zhou Ran's heart ached. Back then, the old lady had forced Zhou Ran and Yun and I to divorce like this. However, just as the large group of Yun family members were about to approach Yun and I, a petite figure stood in front of Yun and I. The beautiful girl looked up slightly. In front of the dozen or so tall and strong men of the Yun family, she did not show a trace of fear. On the contrary, she expressionlessly curled her lips and provoked them. "If you want to take my father away, defeat me first. Come, wonderful book house." Chapter 2595. Yun Jian had actually thought of letting Yun and I, Zhou Ran, and Yun Mu move to Longmen City. However, it was impossible. Humans were sentient creatures. No matter how tough life was, they would not be willing to leave after living in a place for half their lives. Zhou Ran and Yun and I were the same. Here, however, the old lady would force Yun and I to marry a woman she did not like. The Yun family still retained the old tradition of obeying one's parents when it came to marriage. Therefore, the uncles of the Yun family were on the old lady's side. They surrounded Yun Jian, Yun and I, Yun Mu, and Zhou Ran like they were crusading against evil. Logically, even if Yun Jian was the boss of Falcon Hall, it should be a little difficult for her to face so many people. Should it not? In spite of it, Wen Zhengxiang did not think so much. Stop it. Stop it now. She's. Wen Zhengxiang was afraid that the Yin family would really lay their hands on Yun Jian, so he quickly stepped forward to stop them. Yun Jian, she was. Xiangzi, stay out of this. Move aside. Otherwise, we'll beat you up too. A tall and plump middle-aged man from the Yin family pushed Wen Zhengxiang away and hollered. The tall and plump middle-aged man glared at Yun Jian as he spoke. "Little girl, you're so arrogant. I'll give you one more chance. If you don't move aside, I'll kill you." The tall and plump middle-aged man bellowed as if he was quarreling. Those who were seated at the side trembled when they heard him. The tall and plump middle-aged man was Yin Zhou, who was 195 meters tall. He was the strongest person in the Yun family, and was very obedient to the old lady. Yin Zhou was the old lady's other son. In terms of seniority, he was ranked after Yun and I. Strictly speaking, he was Yun Jian's uncle. The old lady wore a smug expression when she saw this. Yin Zhou stretched out his muscular arm, and swung it at Yun Jian in front of everyone. There was no way Yun Jian's petite frame would be able to take the blow. Jianer! Jianer! Yin and I and Zhou Ran shouted, and were about to rush forward. However, before Yun Jian could smash his arm, which was 3 times as thick as Yun Jian's thigh, Yun Jian's petite figure gently moved to the side. In the next second, her nimble snake-like hands coiled around Yun Zhou's arm, which was 3 times as thick as her thighs, and fiercely grabbed him. In an instant, everyone saw Yin Zhou being flung up by Yun Jian, and smashed onto a round table not far away. The shabby round table instantly collapsed. The newspapers, bowls, and chopsticks on the round table all slipped to the ground. Ah! By the time Yin Zhou reacted, he had already been flung away by Yun Jian. He let out a painful wail. "Zhouer! You! How dare you? The old lady stared at Yun Jian, surprised by Yun Jian's ability, and abhorred Yun Jian for daring to touch her precious son. Auntie, where's your precious grandson now? Aren't you going to ask? A woman who came with the old lady reminded the old lady. The old lady came back to her senses at that, and looked up at Yun Jian, speaking to Yun Jian with a chilling expression. You touched my son, and caused my grandson to be kidnapped. Now tell us clearly, why did those people kidnap my grandson? What exactly did you do? Let us find my grandson, and I'll let bygones be bygones. The old lady was still confident, refusing to give up until she saw the coffin. Everyone's heart sank when they heard what the old lady said, as they turned to look at Yun Jian. Even Yun and I, Zhou Ran, Zhou Qiong, and Mu Zishi, who had heard from Yun Jian that she was the boss of Falcon Hall, all looked at Yun Jian. Their instincts told them that Yun Jian's identity was far more than that. They thought that Yun Jian would retaliate verbally with the old lady's threatening expression, or that she would not mention what she had done in the past to attract people to kidnap Yun Zhu and threaten her. However, Yun Jian stepped on the newspaper that had slid to the ground from the table and kicked it in front of everyone. On the newspaper, there was a headline titled "Many Young Children Were Kidnapped and Sent to Assassin Organizations to Train for Many Years to Become Killing Machines, killing 1,009 people in 3 years." Everyone's hearts trembled when they saw this. If they guessed correctly, it was the same for Yun Jian 15 years ago. Just when everyone was puzzled and had a vague answer in their hearts, Yun Jian raised her slightly lowered eyes in front of everyone. Under her bangs, her dark eyes were instantly dyed red with blood vessels. Under everyone's gaze, she said something that made the old lady faint. The Yun family members scared half to death, and Yun and I, Zhou Ran, Zhou Qiong, and the others terrified and shocked. I've killed many people over the years, so naturally, I've made more enemies. If they touch my father again, I don't mind killing a few more. After all, the number of people I've killed is much more than the number of third-rate assassins in this newspaper. Calm. Wonderful book house. Calm. Chapter 2596. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. After all, the number of people I've killed is much more than these third-rate killers in the report. The last sentence left Yun Jian's red arc quietly. The old lady, who was originally full of murderous intent towards Yun Jian, Yun Zhou, who was grabbed by Yun Jian and smashed the round table, and more than 10 people in the Yun family, including Yun and I and Zhou Qiong, all looked at Yun Jian, who was emitting a gloomy aura from head to toe. Their hearts couldn't help but tremble slightly. Yun Jian's words were clearly flat without any ups and downs, but the meaning in her words was extremely frightening. When Yun and I heard this, he rushed forward and reached out to grab the newspaper that Yun Jian had kicked in front of the old lady and the dozen people in the Yun family. His hands trembled like a spring as he read the headline of the big news in the newspaper with a trembling voice. Have you ever seen a killing machine more powerful than the killer agents in the movies? According to the confession of the 10 killers who were arrested 9 years ago, they were abducted into the killer organization and underwent inhumane training with thousands of children. In the end, there were only 20 killers left. They went on missions for 3 years and killed a total of 1,009 people. It is reported that more than half of the children, who were abducted more than 10 years ago, were sent to the killer organization. When he read this, Yun and I looked at the news report in the newspaper and couldn't continue. Coupled with Yun Jian's confession just now, in these years she... Plop. The old lady was so frightened that she sat on the ground. Everyone in the Yun family avoided Yun Jian, as if she were a tiger. Zhou Qiong, Wan Yuyu Muzishi, Jingcheng, and the others were pale. Zhou Ran's expression was the same as Yun Ni's and Yun Mu's. There wasn't much change in her expression. Call the police, call the police. The old lady sat on the ground, her eyes blank. She trembled as she turned over and crawled out of the door. The meaning of Yun Jian's words wasn't obvious. However, everyone present could tell what he meant. In the 15 years that she was abducted, she was probably abducted into the killer organization. How could someone who could survive in the killer organization be weak? When the old lady heard that Yun Jian was an assassin from the killer organization, she was already scared half to death and crawled out of the door. Unfortunately, she didn't know that Yun Jian was the king of the killer agents. Call the police. Everyone suddenly heard these 3 words from Yun Jian's words. Yun Jian's voice, Yun Jian's voice, Yun Jian's, the old lady's, and crawled out of the door. Just as the old lady was just when the old lady. The old was just right just the old lady and the dagger translation 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 in translation translation Luyu translation 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 as translation is translation to translation The old lady straightened her body, rolled her eyes, and felt a chill down her spine. Before everyone could react, Yun Jian had already come to the old lady's side. She pressed a small blade against the old lady's chin, and used the cold blade to lift the old lady's chin, forcing the old lady to look directly at her. Under everyone's stare, she curled her lips and said strangely, "Who do you want to call the police? I know a lot of people in the army. Do you want me to introduce you?" The old lady was so frightened that she could only use screams to make up for her fear. She never thought that Yun Jian would know people in the army. Moreover, when the cold blade was pressed against her chin, the old lady felt her entire body tremble in fear. The others didn't dare to make a sound. Everyone present had already silently agreed that Yun Jian didn't admit or deny her identity. To them, this Yun Jian was quite dangerous. The old lady was so frightened that she rolled on the ground. In addition to using words to provoke her, Yun Jian also hypnotized the old lady to make her even more emotional. Seeing that the old lady couldn't stop trembling crazily, Yun Jian stood up from her half-squatting position. Her lips curled into a red arc as if nothing had happened. She pursed her lips and smiled at everyone as if nothing had happened. "It seems that my dear grandma is too excited because my dad and mom are about to remarry today. Everyone, tomorrow at Mingming Hotel in Suzhou City, there will be a small gathering for my dad and mom's remarriage ceremony. You are welcome." Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation 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 Translation. Chapter 2597. The old lady had been hypnotized by Yun Jian since just now, so she was in constant shock. Using this opportunity, Yun Jian wanted Zhou Ran and Yun and I to remarry. None of the Yun family members who had followed the old lady's request and forced Yun and I and Shin To-wen to marry each other dared to make a sound. "Then everyone, see you at the hotel tomorrow." Yun Jian opened the door and asked them to leave. She was smiling innocently. If they had not seen Yun Jian just now, they would have thought that Yun Jian was just an innocent girl. "Definitely. I'll definitely come tomorrow. Haha, for sure." A relative of the Yun family grinned. He sniffed and frowned. Then he grabbed his wife and left with a fake smile. "Congratulations on your marriage, rebel." The other member of the Yun family also imitated this person's actions. He patted Yun Ni's shoulder, pulled out a smile, and fled with his family. Not long after, the dozen or so distant relatives of the Yun family, who had been called over by the old madam, had all disappeared. Yun Ni's younger brother, Yun Zhou, pounced over to pull the old lady and helped her out of Zhou Ran's house quickly. Once the Yun family left, Zhou Ran's house fell into silence. Zhou Qiang, Wan Yuyu, Mu Zishi, Jing Cheng, and the others had witnessed the entire incident from beginning to end. Until now, they were still unable to recover from the shock that Yun Jian, who was about the same age as them, had the ability to intimidate so many people in the Yun family single-handedly. In spite of it, they would be rather thick-skinned if they did not leave at this juncture. Thus, all of them excused themselves and left. "Jianer, do you have any way to investigate?" Yun and I asked Yun Jian anxiously once everyone was gone. After knowing Yun Jian's identity, almost everyone was afraid of her but Yun and I, Zhou Ran, and Yunin were not. Of course, Yun Jian didn't reveal her identity as an assassin, just to scare the old lady. My brother is not dead. Tomorrow, after you go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register your marriage, I will take you to see him. Yunjian already knew what Yin and I wanted to ask, so she spoke first. After that, Yunjian paused for a moment, and her red lips curved slightly. I'll take you to the city where I've been living all these years. Just treat it as a vacation. I believe you'll like it. That night, Yin and I stayed at Zhou Ran's house. The next day, they followed Yunjian's arrangement and went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register their marriage again. They even hurriedly held a small wedding banquet. Even if the old lady did not agree, she did not have the chance to refute. Yunjian confessed some things to Zhou Ran, Yin and I, and Yunmu. For example, Xiao Yunju had been killed before, but he had been reborn into this body. His current mother also existed. Another example was her relationship with Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian. Other than her identity as slaying god, the top secret agent on the International Secret Agent ranking list, and her identity as the witch god of Yulong mainland, Yunjian basically didn't hold back anything. Yunjian dared to say that because Zhou Ran, Yin and I, and Yunyin were all low-key and secretive people. As expected, after hearing Yunjian's words, the two of them didn't say anything and insisted on rushing to the fruit shop to buy fruits for Qin Yiru, Gu Junjian, and Xiao Yunju's reborn mother. Moreover, for the sake of Xiao Yunju's future, Zhou Ran and Yin and I would not bring Xiao Yunju to Tsuzhou no matter what. No matter how feudal the Yun family was, Yin and I did not want Xiao Yunju to follow in his footsteps. He could not even decide his own marriage. That night, Yunjian, Zhou Ran, Yin and I, and Yunyin came to Longmen City. Just as they passed by her house, Yunjian saw Ce who was waiting for her at the gate. She pressed her lips together and smiled sweetly. When Ce saw Yunjian, his handsome face was filled with affection. However, he suddenly saw Yunyin, who was standing beside Yunjian, with short black hair and a height of 1.7 meters, putting her hand on Yunjian's shoulder. In that instant, Ce's gaze on Yunyin was filled with a murderous intent. Calm, wonderful book house. Chapter 2598. At this moment, Ce looked as if she had swallowed vinegar. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent, as if she wanted to destroy Yunmu with a single glance. Suddenly, she felt as if someone was glaring at her from all directions. Yun Lian placed one hand on Yunjian's shoulder, while her other hand ran through her short black hair. Yunmu gently flicked her short hair. Even the way she flicked her hair made her look like a boy. From afar, the person who was holding onto Yunjian's shoulder looked like a delicate and beautiful boy. Mama, mama, mama. At this moment, the figure of a little girl who was not even as tall as Yunjian's calf rushed out of the house. The little girl stumbled as she ran towards Yunjian. The little girl, who was about 7 months old, had already started learning how to walk. However, after taking 2 steps, she fell forward with a plop. The little girl did not even have the time to stand up. After she fell to the ground, she used her 4 limbs to crawl towards Yunjian like a little tortoise. Her speed was extremely fast. Mama! Mama giggles strange tigery. The little girl crawled in front of Yunjian. After Yunjian picked the little girl up from the ground, the little girl used a tiny voice that no one could understand and started babbling. Others might not understand, but as the little girl's mother, how could Yunjian not understand? The meaning of the words Mama giggles strange tigery was not difficult to understand. The little girl wanted to convey the message, Mama big brother bullied me. But the tone of the words was forcefully changed. Ah, this is. Yunmu had never seen such an adorable baby before. She was at a loss as to what to do as she stretched out her hand and gently tapped the little girl's cheeks like a spring. Then, she quickly retracted her hand, afraid that she would hurt the little girl. Hee okay. The little girl called out to Yunmu in a muffled voice. Of course, Yunmu did not understand what she was saying. However, Yunmu still happily asked Yunjian a question. Is she calling out to me? Is she calling out to me? She's so adorable. How could there be such a cute child? I want to snatch her away and make her my daughter. Yunmu's voice was a little rough to begin with, and her face was as delicate as a boy's. It was really difficult for outsiders to tell whether Yunmu was a man or a woman. Siyi's face gradually darkened. Jian, is this where you live? Take us to see your parents. At this moment, Yin and I, who was carrying all kinds of fruit baskets, shouted with an excited expression. He looked like he was here to propose marriage to Yun Jian on behalf of his son. Needless to say, Siyi's expression darkened. The worst thing was that the little girl even laughed and hugged into Yunmu's arms. When Yunying took the little girl from Yun Jian's arms, her hand actually brushed against Yun Jian's chest. His chest. This time, Siyi's chiseled face was filled with displeasure as he walked over. He was going to throw this man who dared to touch his Xiao Jian's chest out here, and hack him to death. This was what Siyi planned to do next. Siyi had always been a person who did whatever he wanted. With a dark expression, he walked over and reached Yun Jian in a few steps. Just as Siyi was about to act on his thoughts, what Yunmu said to Yun Jian, while carrying the little girl, carefully entered Siyi's ears, making Siyi's heart skip a beat. Chapter 2599. Siyi's next move was halted by Yunmu's greeting of sister and godmother. Yunmu hugged the girl and tried to cheer her up with all sorts of weird expressions. The girl giggled as well. Sister, that's great. You've given birth to such a beautiful daughter. My heart is about to melt. Yunmu's face was filled with excitement. Her motherly love was about to burst out. It's a boy and a girl, Yun Jian added when she heard Yunmu mistakenly thinking that she had only given birth to a girl. Oh, a boy and a girl. That's great. It's best to give birth to a boy and a girl. Treat the daughter like a treasure and play with the son. How great is that? Yunmu said seriously. What are you talking about? Both the daughter and the son are doted on. Zhou Ran chimed in with a grin. Yunmu still did not know that she had narrowly escaped death. She hugged the girl, unwilling to let go of her overflowing motherly love. Zhou Ran and Yin and I met with Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian and started chatting happily. Both families were like a family, getting along very well. In the end, if it were not for the fact that their homes were in Suzhou, and they had lived there all their lives, Zhou Ran and Yin and I would have moved to Longmen City. Yunmu liked the girl so much that she carried her around, and eventually stayed in the living room to teach the clever girl how to play rock paper scissors. Yun Jian went out with Siyi then. Qin Yiru and Zhou Ran chatted happily. Both of them were Yun Jian's mothers, and both of them brusquely sent Yun Jian to the market to buy groceries. When Yun Jian went to the market to buy groceries, Siyi had to tag along. She also went to Lan Su's house to pick up the little girl. The little guy insisted on staying at Lan Su's house this morning, so Siyi didn't force him. At this moment, they arrived at Lan Su's house. Just as she entered Lan Su's house, Yun Jian saw Leng Mei, Gu Nianji, and Qin Yu freeloading at Lan Su's house. When they saw Yun Jian, all three of them stood up and greeted Yun Jian. Sister Jian. Yun Jian responded softly. Where did that guy go? Siyi asked. That guy, of course, was the little guy Si Dan. Judging from Siyi's tone, she was most likely going to carry the poor little fellow with one hand again. Cough. Over there. Leng Mei pointed at Zhou Ran's room in Lan Su's house. Yun Jian put down the vegetables she bought from the market and walked towards the small room. The two of them are playing games. Why don't we go in later? It's not easy for them to reconcile and stop fighting, Gu Nianji suggested with a chuckle. Yun Jian held Siyi back and did not go forward. Have a bowl of mung bean soup I made. Lan Su came out of the kitchen with 2 bowls of mung bean soup and passed them to Yun Jian and Siyi. Haha, I realize that Sister Lan Su is becoming more and more like a housewife now. Leng Mei hugged the pillow on the sofa and rolled around to lie on Gu Nianji. That's right. Gu Nianji giggled in agreement. Mine. At this moment, Zhou Ran's loud voice suddenly rang out from Zhou Ran's small room. Oh, the little guy's babbling voice could be heard right away. Mine, mine, mine. Zhou Ran seemed to be arguing with the little guy as his loud voice echoed in the room. Oh. The little guy was not to be outdone. Afraid that the two of them would fight again, Yun Jian, Ce Lan Su, and Leng Mei hurried to the small room. When she opened the door to Zhou Ran's small room, she saw Zhou Yiran grabbing the little boy's collar. The little boy imitated Zhou Yiran and grabbed the corner of Zhou Yiran's clothes. The two of them pulled each other and rolled around on the bed. Then Zhou Yiran's lips were intimately pressed against the little guy's. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2600, page 1/1. A loud smacking sound suddenly rang out from the moment the little fellow and Zhou Yiran's lips touched. Just like that, the two of them kissed in front of everyone. They kissed. Oh my God! Lung Mei slipped and almost fell onto Gu Nianji. She covered her eyes awkwardly and turned around. She forced a smile that even she was shocked by. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. Lung Mei said as she grabbed Gu Nianji and ran out of the door. At this moment, Zhou Yiran was being straddled by the little guy. He blinked his large eyes and reacted in an instant. He frowned and reached out to push the little guy away. After that, Zhou Yiran stood up and vomited beside the bed. He even complained in front of Ce. It's disgusting. It's not as fragrant as my wife's lips. The little guy was pushed onto the bed by Zhou Yiran. Like a lively little turtle, he looked at the ceiling without speaking or moving. He looked like a little wife who was being bullied. Yunjian quickly walked over and picked up the little guy with a smile. Ce walked towards Zhou Yiran with a dark expression. I just bought a lively fish at the market. It'll definitely be delicious when cooked. Haha, we're in for a treat tonight. At that moment, Adam walked into the room with a big fish in his hand. As soon as he walked into the room, he saw Ce's handsome face. His words slowly stopped. Before Adam could figure out what was going on, he heard the calamity. That was his doom coming from Ce's lips. Adam, take your son with you. You must get on the bus to the Amazon in 10 minutes. If you're late for even a second, the organization's newly developed tracking missile will blast you to wherever you go. Ce had given the order to kill them this time. Adam shouted, F***CK. He accurately threw the big fish in his hand into the sink and rushed into Zhou Yiran's small room. He complained. What did you do, you brat? He picked up Zhou Yiran and rushed out of the door. Not long after, he disappeared. Before leaving, Adam even left Lan Su a sentence. Darling, wait for me to come back. It must have been hard for Adam to work under Ce. Lung Mei, Gu Nianji, and Qing Yu's lips twitched. Yeah. The little fellow didn't have the slightest intention of kissing Zhou Yiran. When he saw Zhou Yiran being carried away by Adam, his hands and feet lightly touched each other, as if he was learning how to applaud an adult. Yun Jian rubbed the little fellow's head lovingly, not letting the little fellow out of her arms. Ce walked over and grabbed the back of the little boy's collar from Yun Jian's arms. After Yun Jian said goodbye to Lan Su and the others, she also left. She stayed at home for 2 days. As Yun Han was about to take the college entrance examination, she had to return to school to study. Zhou Ran and Yin and I also had to return to Tsuzhou with Yun Han. When Yun Han returned home, Zhou Ran had to cook for her. However, when the three of them returned, Yun Jian asked them to move to the villa she bought for them. She only left after making sure that old mistress and her group would not harass them again. Yun Jian returned to the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China to continue her studies. Ce, on the other hand, returned to an Hun group. The new year was over. As Yun Jian was only taking a year off, she had no choice but to return to school. Previously, it was mentioned that they would find the third artifact left behind by the creator of Deity Continent on Shrouded Dragon Mountain. Yun Jian had to understand Shrouded Dragon Mountain well before she set off. As soon as Yun Jian returned to school, Mo Bufan, Zhou Huntao, and Zhou Dun from the Martial Arts Society organized the members of the society to welcome Yun Jian back. The one who insisted on treating Yun Jian to a meal when she returned to school was the filthy rich Brother Kai. Brother Kai was Mo Bufan's buddy. He usually gave girls diamond rings as jewelry and was very rich. Brother Kai treated Yun Jian differently from ordinary girls. He sincerely treated Yun Jian as a friend. Brother Kai called a large group of people and went to a nearby bar to welcome Yun Jian back. Here, this is Yun Jian, the president of our school's martial arts society. She took a year off and came back today. In a large private room, Brother Kai introduced Yun Jian to some juniors who had just entered school not long ago. Translator, Tim Editor Globeglotter. Chapter 2601. While Yun Jian was away, many new students entered the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. Yun Jian was no longer a first-year student. She was now in the second semester of her sophomore year. Yun Jian had been in university for almost 2 years. Of course, that was if the 1-year break in between didn't count. Brother Kai had a wide social circle in the university. Some of the new students were very playful. They could easily get to know and hook up with anyone. The people they hooked up with liked to brag in front of them and introduce them to the so-called awesome people. As a matter of fact, they quickly used their connections to get to know Brother Kai. There were at least a dozen university students present. They were freshmen who had just entered the university, and all of them were dressed gorgeously. A few of the girls with better figures were wearing shorts that revealed their buttocks. Their upper bodies were wearing tights that revealed their cleavage, slim waists, and belly buttons. The boys were wearing designer clothes and branded sports shoes. A few of the boys were wearing imitation sports shoes. In their youth, in order to show off, most boys who didn't come from rich families would buy high-end imitation shoes to wear. Only Yun Jian was wearing casual clothes. Her clothes weren't bad, but they were too ordinary for girls who liked to look good. Brother Kai, this is the president of the martial arts club. She's so beautiful. A first-year female student who was proud to know Brother Kai walked towards Yun Jian. She was wearing shorts that revealed her buttocks. To her, Yun Jian was Brother Kai's favorite. So this first-year female student came to Yun Jian, handed Yun Jian a cigarette and asked, "Do you smoke?" No. Yun Jian refused decisively. The girl put the cigarette into her mouth and skillfully lit it with a lighter. "Hey, Jejia, I heard that you broke up with your boyfriend. Is that true?" At this time, a girl sitting not far away raised her red fingernails and asked the girl who handed Yun Jian the cigarette. "We broke up." The girl took the cigarette out of her mouth. She blew the smoke gently and said indifferently, Song Shijia was the girl's name. Soon, the crowd's attention shifted from Yun Jian to other places. The bar was very messy, and there were people dancing everywhere. Fortunately, this was a private room. Whether it was outside the bar or inside the private room, the lights were always dim, giving people a depressing feeling. Bars were usually open until very late. This bar usually closed at 2:30 p.m. Brother Kai and the others played until 1:30 in the morning and still didn't want to leave. "I heard that there will be a big shot here tonight, so everyone can stay out a little later." Brother Kai told everyone what he knew. Everyone was amused when they heard that. When it was 2 in the morning, most of the people outside the bar had already left in 2s and 3s, but the people in the private rooms were still very awake. "Dear customers, these drinks are free of charge in our store. Please have a taste." At around 2 o'clock in the morning, several people dressed as waiters walked into the private room. They placed some drinks on the table and left the room. "Hey, this bar is not bad. They know that our expenses are high, so they give us free drinks." Zhou Huntao from the martial arts club complained. After the waiters walked out of the private room, he poured a glass of orange juice and was about to drink it. However, before Zhou Huntao could drink the orange juice, everyone suddenly heard an inconspicuous voice that was as pleasant as the sound of nature. Suddenly, they heard a voice that was not eye-catching, but was as pleasant as the sound of nature. "Can't drink, the drink is mixed with drugs." Chapter 2602. The bar usually closed at 2:30 in the morning, and it was already 2:30 in the morning. The group came late and didn't have enough time to play, so they played until very late. The bar was the most crowded in the morning, but after 2 o'clock in the morning, when the night was quiet and there were only a few people in the bar, anything could happen. Always remember that 90% of the things in this world only happen when you look for them. Free things are poison, so never touch them. Yun Jian's eyes flashed sharply. She finished speaking and stood up. Zhou Huntao had already put the teacup to his mouth, but when he heard Yun Jian's words, he quickly moved his mouth away and spat out some orange juice on the ground. F*ck this. Zhou Huntao didn't have time to consider whether Yun Jian was telling the truth or not before he shouted in shock. Knockout drug? Song Shijia, who had just handed Yun Jian a cigarette, was shocked. Everyone around them was so scared that their faces turned pale. Yun Jian walked up and opened the bottles of free alcohol and drinks one by one. She put them at the tip of her nose and sniffed. These free alcohol and drinks are all mixed with knockout drugs. The concentration isn't high, but if you drink it all, it's enough to knock everyone out, Yun Jian said after sniffing all the alcohol and drinks. You know about this too? Song Shijia asked in fear. Yun Jian didn't reply to Song Shijia. She walked to the door of the private room, put her ear to the door in front of everyone, and closed her eyes for 3 seconds. What is she doing? Song Shijia suddenly let out a sigh of relief and asked the person standing next to her. Most of the people in the room were also puzzled. The door of the bar was just closed, and there's no one in the bar lobby. This bar should have closed at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yun Jian opened her eyes and turned to look at everyone. What? It closed at 2 o'clock in the morning? Then, everyone was shocked when they heard this. It closed at 2 o'clock in the morning, but everyone in the private room didn't realize this at all. Moreover, the room was soundproof, so they couldn't hear anything outside. You mean, is this hotel a scam? They're already prepared to knock us out. Brother Kai's face turned pale for a moment. He immediately reacted and asked, Then what is their purpose? Song Shijia was also scared. Everyone in the room was a student, so it was obvious what the purpose of this bar was. Yun Jian glanced at Song Shijia. I don't know. She walked towards where Brother Kai and Emo Bufan were. Yun Jian, can you think of a way? Emo Bufan looked at Yun Jian and asked with a frown. Did something like this happen because they had played too late? But now that it had happened, how was he going to resolve it? I can't help it, Yun Jian suddenly said as she walked past Brother Kai and walked towards the sofa. When everyone heard this, their hearts trembled. But the moment Yun Jian said, I can't help it, she suddenly flashed behind Brother Kai and kicked an inconspicuous boy's face in front of everyone. After the boy fell to the ground, she grabbed the boy's jacket and tied him up. At the same time, she stuffed the boy's mouth with tissue paper. Wenling, why did you tie Wenling up? Are you crazy? Song Shijia suddenly saw this and shouted at Yun Jian in shock. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian was scared out of her wits, Yun Jian coldly smiled and looked at the boy named Wenling, who was being suppressed in front of everyone. What's your purpose in teaming up with the people in the bar to knock us out? Chapter 2603. Wenling and Song Shijia knew each other, and they were all freshmen. Not long after they entered the school, they started fooling around with everyone. Usually, he looked like an outstanding and helpful boy. What do you mean by that? Song Shijia looked at Yun Jian and asked in shock. Yun Jian did not explain to Song Shijia. She turned around and kicked a stool in the private room, while everyone's expressions changed in shock. The stool with 4 unconnected legs bounced up and down for a while in front of everyone. It bounced 3 meters away and landed firmly on Wenling's head, whose back was facing the ceiling. Wenling's mouth was stuffed with toilet paper, and he could not speak. Song Shijia and her group of freshmen, as well as everyone present, were shocked when they saw Yun Jian kick the stool, and it landed on Wenling's head without any deviation. If the stool with 4 unconnected legs had been slightly off, it would have landed on Wenling's head. If it had landed from such a distance, Wenling's head would probably have been smashed until it bled. Yun Jian, why did you accuse him? Emo Bufan frowned and asked Yun Jian. He went to the toilet 3 times midway, Yun Jian replied. You even remembered that? A freshman asked Yun Jian in surprise. In the end, the freshman added, but even so, you can't accuse Wenling of teaming up with the people in the bar to drug us. What's your motive for saying that? Yun Jian also ignored the boy. She turned to look at Brother Kai and asked, was it your idea to come to this bar? After Brother Kai heard this, he replied, no, Wenling introduced her to me. Played until 2 in the morning? This seems to be Wenling's suggestion too. Since everyone is having so much fun, they should go back later. Brother Kai did not notice this before, and thought for a while before replying. Everyone's eyes widened when they heard this. But all of them looked at Yun Jian in shock. How did she know that when Ling betrayed everyone? Her observation skills were too amazing. Haha. I didn't expect that I would be discovered. At this moment, the door to the private room was opened, and a middle-aged man with a broken arm walked in under the protection of a group of people. Woo-woo. When Ling saw the middle-aged man, he cried out twice. What a piece of trash. You can't even fool a group of students your age. Do you still want money for your mother's treatment? The middle-aged man with a broken arm glared at Ling and chuckled. Brother Dahao, the injection is ready. At this moment, one of the men standing behind the middle-aged man said. This middle-aged man called Brother Dahao was a big shot in the bar. Moreover, Brother Dahao was an expert in the world of drug trafficking. He had his eyes on the students in the university town of Jiang City since a long time ago. This time, he planned to make a fortune from Ling. Inject them with drugs. I don't believe it. Brother Dahao instructed his subordinates with an authoritative look. However, just as Brother Dahao finished speaking, a group of armed men dressed in black suddenly rushed in from outside the door. This group of people appeared here without any warning, as if they were envoys of the night. When Song Shijia and the others saw this, their eyelids twitched. When they saw the leader of this group of armed men dressed in black, Brother Dahao's expression changed drastically. He immediately lowered his head and exclaimed in front of everyone, You! Why are you here? Brother Dahao was also someone who had been to the international scene and had seen the world. When he saw the person who came in, he was so shocked that his expression changed abruptly. When everyone was wondering who this person that even Brother Dahao was afraid of was, Brother Dahao had already said respectfully to the leader of the armed men, I've already transferred the last batch of firearms to your hands. Why are you still looking for me? Before Brother Dahao could finish speaking to the leader of the armed troops, a voice suddenly rang out. The leader of the armed men suddenly walked in front of Yun Jian. In less than 2 seconds, he directly knelt on the ground in front of Yun Jian in front of everyone present. At the same moment when everyone was so shocked that their eyeballs almost popped out, he kowtowed to Yun Jian and begged for mercy. Miss Yun, I didn't have foresight in the past and offended you. Please be merciful. Let go of my cold pavilion. Chapter 2604. The person who came was not an outsider. He was Siyi's biological father on Earth, Si Chu. Ding! Ding! At the same time, he was the head of the Cold Pavilion, an arms family. Ever since Si Chu failed to force Siyi to marry him a few years ago, Siyi had severed all ties with Si Chu. The Cold Pavilion was an internationally renowned arms family. Yun Jian had been eyeing it for a long time. A few months ago, she got the chance to take over the Cold Pavilion. Before Yun Jian made her move, she even asked Siyi if she had feelings for the Cold Pavilion. Siyi's reply was, If you like it, it's yours. A few days ago, the Cold Pavilion was completely destroyed by Yun Jian, and its arms family fell into Yun Jian's hands. However, they did not expect Si Chu to come here and beg for mercy. What's going on? What's going on? Brother Dahao was horrified. When the people present saw this scene, they all turned to stare at Yun Jian. Brother Dahao was such a powerful person, yet he actually knelt down and begged for mercy in front of Yun Jian. Senior, this is... Song Shijia looked at Yun Jian in a daze and was about to speak. I don't know him. Yun Jian interrupted Song Shijia and glanced at Si Chu. Then, she turned to Si Chu and added, I'm just an ordinary female student at the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. You must have mistaken me for someone else. It turned out that he had mistaken her for someone else. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Yun Jian, I thought you were in the underworld. You actually colluded with an arms family. Zhou Huntao heaved a sigh of relief. When everyone heard Yun Jian's words, they felt relieved. Yun Jian glanced at Si Chu. Seeing that Si Chu was stunned, she did not say anything and walked out of the room. Mo Bufan, Brother Kai, Song Shijia, and the others saw that Yun Jian actually left the private room in front of Brother Dahao and the others. They were afraid that Brother Deheo wouldn't let them go, so they quickly chased after Yun Jian. Brother Deheo was afraid of Si Chu, so he didn't dare to send people to chase after them. He just watched as Yun Jian and her group disappeared before his eyes. After Yun Jian and the others left, Brother Deheo swallowed hard. He looked at Si Chu and said in a slightly flattering tone, "She's gone. Do you want me to send someone to bring her back for you to confirm?" To Brother Deheo, Si Chu was someone he could not afford to offend. However, Si Chu was still kneeling in front of Yun Jian with a piece of paper in his hand. Other than Si Chu, no one saw that the piece of paper was thrown to him by Yun Jian. This is. Brother Deheo originally thought that Si Chu had found the wrong person. When he saw the piece of paper in Si Chu's hand, he suddenly remembered that Si Chu didn't stop Yun Jian from leaving just now. If that was the case, then that teenage girl was someone that even a big shot like Si Chu would be so scared that he would kneel down when he saw her. Brother Deheo panicked. Fortunately, he didn't do anything to that group of people. After leaving the bar, Mo Buffon, Brother Kai, and the others ran to the school dormitory building at lightning speed. On the way, they didn't dare to stay for a moment, afraid that the group of people would find them again. Phew. I was scared to death just now. Fortunately, Yun Jian was there. Otherwise, we wouldn't even dare to imagine what happened just now. Zhou Huntao took the lead and led everyone to the school dormitory building. He took a few deep breaths and spoke. "That's right. We should thank Yun Jian properly." "Yun Jian? Where did Yun Jian go?" Zhou Dun responded. He wanted to find Yun Jian to thank her, but after looking around, he couldn't find her. She said she went back to the dormitory first. A girl explained with relief. In the bar, Brother Deheo lowered his head and led Si Chu and the others to the bar entrance. Then he saw a petite figure standing at the bar entrance. This petite figure suddenly appeared at the entrance. It was so strange that Brother Deheo and the others panicked. The next moment, the owner of the figure turned her head sideways and changed her posture of a female student. They saw Yun Jian's red arc curl. She looked at Si Chu and sneered in a completely different tone in front of everyone. Chapter 2605. She wanted to kill Si Chu. Brother Deheo's plump body trembled violently. He took 2 steps back, but his eyes were fixed on Yun Jian. Were these words really supposed to come from the mouth of a young girl, who was less than 20 years old? Who was this young girl? "You still have 30 seconds. My knife doesn't have extra time for you to think." Brother Deheo had just recovered from the shock when Yun Jian's cold voice sounded again. If Si Chu didn't come, Yun Jian wouldn't deliberately find him and kill him. But Si Chu came to find him, so he should blame himself. At this time, even Brother Deheo, who had nothing to do with this matter, felt his heart tremble violently. "You still have 10 seconds. I forgot to tell you that my knife tells me that it wants to suck more people's blood. It will use all of your blood to feed my knife." Yun Jian stood in a dark place with a shiny butterfly knife in her hand. She was expressionless when she said this, but her words were frightening. That strange figure made everyone feel like they were in a suspense movie. Brother Deheo's face started to turn pale. Brother Deheo originally thought that this matter wouldn't affect him. Who would have thought that Yun Jian actually said that she wanted everyone to die with Si Chu? "I suddenly remembered that I have an urgent matter at home." Brother Deheo turned around and wanted to leave. But just as he turned around, a blade brushed past his ear and pierced a bottle of wine on the bar counter. Bang bang! The bottle of wine fell to the ground, making a sound that would make people shiver. Brother Deheo quickly walked back to his original place. "I don't have to go home after that." Before he could finish his sentence, "Go home." 32. Yun Jian had already started the countdown with her beautiful voice that sounded like the call of death. Brother Deheo and the group of people standing next to him almost stopped breathing. How could they have provoked such a terrifying demoness? Fight! Fight! At most, they would all die here. However, just as Brother Deheo and the others were so frightened that their faces turned green, thinking that Si Chu would definitely not be able to give a reason this time, the countdown started in the last second. Do you want to know the secrets of the sandalwood box and the wooden fan among the 3 divine artifacts left behind by the creator of the gods' continent, Xing Feng? At the last second, Si Chu spoke. At this moment, he spoke in a solemn tone. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. After pausing for 2 seconds, Yun Jian sheathed her knife. Speak. Yun Jian went straight to the point. Give me back the cold pavilion. Otherwise, you will never know the message left behind by the creator of the gods' continent, Xing Feng. Si Chu said loudly. Sure. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and agreed. Hearing this, Si Chu heaved a sigh of relief. What's the deity's continent? Brother Deheo and the others were confused. At this moment, Si Chu was no longer as weak as before. He turned around and waved to Yun Jian. Come with me. They returned to the private room. Si Chu was not trying to stall for time. He handed a letter to Yun Jian and said, This was given to me by an expert when Ce was born. That expert told me that the cold pavilion would be taken away by a teenage girl in the future. If that day comes, I should give this letter to her. I didn't believe it at first, but now. Si Chu opened his mouth and finally said something. Hearing this, Yun Jian's eyes moved. She immediately took the envelope and opened it to take out the letter. However, when she saw the black words on the white paper inside the envelope, Yun Jian's eyes widened. The letter said, If you want to talk about campus rebirth, the strongest female secret agent, with more like-minded people, follow advanced study literature on WeChat. Talk about life, find confidence. Chapter 2606. The appearance of the letter was very ordinary. There was nothing special about it. However, the words on the white paper made Yun Jian's eyes widen. This was because this letter did not come from Earth, nor did it come from the Yulong continent, nor did it come from the deity continent. It came from another world. It was a handwritten letter left behind by the creator of deity mainland, Xing Feng. After reading the contents of the letter, Yun Jian looked up at Si Chu and asked, Who was the person who gave you this letter? I don't know. I only know that the person was wearing a ghost mask and was dressed very ordinarily. I don't know anything else, Si Chu replied. The words ghost mask were deeply imprinted in Yun Jian's heart. She had heard Yi Ji mention before that Yuan Xing, who sent her the letter, wore a ghost mask all year round. If that was the case, could the person named Yuan Xing be related to the creator of deity mainland, Xing Feng? Perhaps he would know more about Xing Feng. Holding the letter in her hand, Yun Jian turned around. She took 2 steps forward and turned back to look at Si Chu. She asked, Have you read this letter? No. I don't know why, but I can't open this letter, Si Chu replied immediately. Yun Jian did not say anything. She turned around and left. After Yuan Xing took Yi Ji away last time, she was sent back to Qin Yura's house. However, in order to overcome her fear of this world, Yi Ji went to school again. She was still a boarding student. Therefore, Yun Jian had not seen Yi Ji during this period. She suddenly went to Yi Ji's school to look for her. When Yun Jian arrived at Yi Ji's class, all her classmates looked at Yun Jian in surprise. Yi Ji, someone is looking for you. It was a self-study class. A student who was sitting on the podium and acting as a teacher looked after the students spoke to Yi Ji. Hearing this, Yi Ji stood up, trembling, and walked out. Come with me. Yun Jian glanced at Yi Ji and grabbed her hand to go outside. Oh! Yi Ji's classmates saw Yun Jian grabbing Yi Ji's hand. They looked as if they knew a secret. However, Yun Jian ignored them. Yi Ji lowered her head in fear. Yun Jian brought her to the most secluded place in the school, where no one could see her. Do you know where the person who sent me the letter is? Yun Jian asked. Yi Ji was stunned, and then shook her head. He hasn't appeared in front of me in a long time. To Yuan Xing, she was probably just a passerby in his life, an irrelevant person. Therefore, it was impossible for Yuan Xing to revolve around her. Because even when she was bullied in the past, Yuan Xing only stood by the side and did not do anything. She was not important to him at all. Yun Jian's eyes narrowed. Close your eyes. Yun Jian suddenly told Yi Ji. Huh? Yi Ji was stunned, but she still closed her eyes. She believed everything Yun Jian said, As soon as Yiji closed her eyes, Yunjian raised her hand and slapped Yiji's face. If this slap landed on Yiji's face, Yiji would definitely fall to the ground. Yunjian did not hold back. However, just as Yiji felt a gust of wind on her face, her hand was suddenly pulled. In the next second, Yunjian saw a tall man wearing a ghost mask appear. He pulled Yiji to his chest from behind. Come. Wonderful book house. Chapter 2607. Yiji was suddenly pulled behind him. When she realized what was happening, she had already slammed into the man's chest. Suddenly, she felt a hard wall-like body behind her. Yiji was stunned. She instinctively opened her eyes. She looked up and saw the side profile of a man wearing a ghost mask. Yuan Xing. Why are you here? Yiji looked at the man in the ghost mask. Her red lips moved slightly, and she frowned in surprise. After all, ever since Yuan Xing took her away and sent her back to Qin Yura's house, and she entered the school, Yuan Xing had not appeared for a long time. Why did he appear today? He's been following you. Yunjian looked at Yuan Xing, who was wearing a ghost mask. Her lips curved into a red arc as she chuckled. Finally, Yunjian paused. She narrowed her eyes and stared at Yuan Xing. She said in a firm tone, "You're Xingfeng's man." Yuan Xing was a follower of deity's continent's creator, Xingfeng. Yiji did not understand anything. She blinked her eyes and crawled out from Yuan Xing's chest. At this moment, Yuan Xing patted Yiji's head. Under the mask, his face was expressionless, and his lips moved slightly. Go to class. Yuan Xing said to Yiji. Oh! Yiji did not get a reply from Yuan Xing. She scratched the part of her head that was touched by Yuan Xing, and walked to the classroom in confusion. You like her? As soon as Yiji left, Yunjian looked at Yuan Xing with a beautiful and flirtatious smile. Yuan Xing's eyes followed Yiji until she disappeared in front of him. His lips under the mask twitched slightly. He looked away and replied to Yunjian, I don't hate her. That was liking her. Yunjian did not say much, merely smiling with her lips pressed together. Back to the topic at hand, Yunjian's smirk faded abruptly. She turned around and walked to a thick tree, taking 2 steps forward before stopping. Yunjian, who was holding the letter from Si Chu, turned sideways and looked at Yuan Xing. She could not help retorting, if my guess is correct, as the creator of the god's continent, Xingfeng has the ability to foresee the future. Yunjian's words made Yuan Xing's feet move. His eyes darkened. There was silence all around. Silence. It was so quiet that even the sound of breathing could be heard. It was so long that the school bell was about to ring. Yes. A nod suddenly sounded from Yuan Lin's mouth. When Ce was born on Earth, Yuan Shun gave this letter to Si Chu. He told Si Chu that there would be a day when the cold pavilion would be taken away by a young girl. He also told Si Chu to give this letter to Yunjian on that day. This meant that either Yuan Xing or Xingfeng had the ability to foresee the future. There was no doubt that the person who had this ability was Xingfeng. So now, it's time to tell me what you know. Yunjian said as she waved the letter between her index and middle fingers. Yuan Xing took 2 steps to the side after being seen through. He turned around and looked at Yiji in the teaching building. Since you already know, I won't hide it from you. Yuan Xing paused and suddenly grinned. Just as Yunjian stared at him, Yuan Xing reached out and took off his ghost mask from behind. His slender fingers gently removed his mask. The face under the mask was extremely handsome. There was a hint of delicacy in his handsomeness. This was not what Yunjian noticed. Yunjian's focus was on. This face was very similar to Shui Ying's. You are. Yunjian frowned. Yuan Xing raised his eyes and looked at Yunjian. When Yunjian frowned, he immediately said, Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Yuan Xing. My father is Shuang. My mother is Si Luo. As for Xingfeng, he is the child of you and your husband Si Chu. We are from the future world. Chapter 2608. We came from the future world. The words made Yunjian's expression change in surprise. Yes, she had guessed Yuan Xing's identity and Xingfeng's identity. She was even more certain that Xing Feng had the ability to predict the future. But she never expected. Yuan Xing was Shui Ying and Si Luo's child. And Xing Feng was. Yun Jian squeezed the envelope in her hand, her face turning pale. The wind blew past Yun Jian. The warm spring wind blew past Yun Jian's ponytail that reached her waist. Her messy hair fluttered in the wind, looking beautiful. But if one looked closer, one could see that Yun Jian had written 2 words on the white envelope in her hand with a black pen. Save me. The words Xing Feng were inscribed on the letter. It was obvious that Xing Feng had been captured by the mysterious person. I still have something I don't understand. Yun Jian squeezed the envelope in her hand and looked up at Yuan Xing. Please tell me. Yuan Xing said. Yuan Xing was still very polite to Yun Jian, because to Yuan Xing, Xing Feng was his master, just like how Shuang worked for Ce. In a sense, as Xing Feng's mother, Yun Jian was half his master. Will we encounter any mishaps in the future? Yun Jian asked. When she asked this question, she did not hesitate at all. Yuan Xing lowered his head and looked at the leaves on the ground. 2 seconds later, Yuan Xing suddenly looked up and told Yun Jian the truth without hesitation. Yes. In the future, you, your husband, my parents, Uncle Lin Wei, Auntie Yi Ling and everyone else. They're all dead. They were plotted against by the mysterious person and forced to perish together with him. In the end, only Xing Feng and I were left. So in order to change this situation, Si Luan, who was Ce and Yun Jian's child, changed his name to Xing Feng and used all his spiritual power to distort time and space to come to the gods' continent that didn't exist at that time. According to the normal course of history, the deities' continent would also appear. The king of the deities' continent would also exist. The Lord God, the Master God, and the Master God's father would all exist. However, Xing Feng had come to the gods' continent, where everything had yet to begin. He had become the creator of the gods' continent, adding a stroke to the long river of history. He, Xing Feng, was the creator of the gods' continent. Previously, it was said that Xing Feng had accidentally discovered the deity's continent and created it out of selfishness. This was half true and half false. Xing Feng had indeed come to the gods' continent for his own selfish reasons. However, in order to hide his identity, he had no choice but to mold himself into someone else. The only thing that mattered was that Xing Feng had come from a world other than Earth and the divine continent. This only meant that he had come from the future world. His goal was simple. He wanted to change everything. He had traversed time and space, overcome all obstacles, and arrived here, all for the sake of finding the person he loved. And the 3 divine artifacts left behind by Xing Feng were the key to defeating the mysterious person. Yuan Jin told Yun Jian that when he and Xing Feng had just arrived at the gods' continent and created the gods' continent, they had met the mysterious person not long after. At that time, the mysterious person had the speed potion, which could increase the strength of his subordinates by several times. At that time, Xing Feng could not defeat the mysterious person, so he took his beloved woman and went into seclusion. Before Xing Feng went into seclusion, he adopted an adopted son from the gods' continent and made him the ruler of the gods' continent. This adopted son was undoubtedly Si Yi's ancestor. Xing Feng had gone into seclusion, secretly looking for a way to deal with the mysterious person. However, the mysterious person had found his residence and caught Xing Feng and his subordinates in one fell swoop. Only Yuan Jin, who had come to Earth with this secret, was entrusted by Xing Feng. There was no need to explain what had happened after that. Hearing this, Yun Jian's eyes were cold. Her eyes were filled with killing intent, revealing an unprecedented coldness. She was still expressionless, but the words that came out of her mouth were so cold that they could freeze the world. So what you mean is that the mysterious man took my child away? Chapter 2609. Although he did not want to say it out loud, Yuan Xian clenched his fists and nodded. Yes, Xingfeng had fallen into the hands of the mysterious man. As Yun Jian and Si Yi's child, Xingfeng, or Ce, could have lived a peaceful life with Yuan Xian in the future world. This was because Yun Jian and the rest had sacrificed their lives to kill the mysterious man in the future world. All the danger had disappeared after Yun Jian, CE, and the rest had perished with the mysterious man. Xingfeng did not have to come back and suffer the pain of being captured by the mysterious man and not knowing whether he was alive or dead. However, he chose to give up the safe harbor and used all his spiritual power to tear open the dimensional door and bring Yuan Xian and CE back to the present. After Yuan Xian answered Yun Jian, he suddenly remembered Xingfeng's request and quickly said to Yun Jian, "Xingfeng doesn't want you to go and save him immediately." I understand. 4 simple and flat words came out of Yun Jian's thin lips. Her eyes were silent, and even her facial expression did not change much. However, Yuan Xian saw a bloodthirsty murderous intent in Yun Jian's words and expression. It was an expression that belonged to Slaying God and the Sorcerer God. On the bloodthirsty battlefield, they would do anything to achieve their goals. Ring, ring, ring. The school bell rang to signal the end of class. Less than half a minute after the bell rang, Yiji ran out of the classroom panting. Yuan Xian put on his ghost mask and took one last look at Yun Jian. He said to Yun Jian, "Please keep it a secret. Please keep this a secret. I don't want my parents and everyone else to bear enormous pressure before that day arrives." Yun Jian responded to Yuan Xian's words with Yuan Xian, I remember that your birthday is next week. Can you tell me your address? Before Yiji could catch her breath, she placed her hands on her knees and bent over, panting as she spoke. There's no need. Yuan Xian did not look at Yiji. He walked past her and said those words. Not long after, Yuan Jin left this place. I thought he was pitiful. He's alone, so I wanted to celebrate his birthday for him. I haven't seen anyone else by his side for so many years. Yiji looked in the direction Yuan Xing left with a confused expression. He's everywhere, Yun Jian said. Yuan Xian had been following beside Yiji, but he did not show himself. Yiji did not know anything about this. Yiji didn't understand the meaning of Yun Jian's words, but she still pretended that she understood Yun Jian's words and nodded. I'll see you again next time. Study hard, Yun Jian said to Yiji and left the school. After leaving school, Yun Jian returned to the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. Her face was expressionless, and her footsteps made no sound. When she arrived at the martial arts club, everyone in the martial arts club was shocked. Yun Jian, you? Emo Bufan asked in surprise. But before he finished speaking, Yun Jian spoke first. Is there a tour group near the school? Emo Bufan heard this and nodded. Yes, Yun Jian. Are you going to travel with a tour group? Haha, I know someone in a tour group. Where are you going? Sign up for his tour group, and it will take you to your destination. Where are you going? Emo Bufan asked and looked at Yun Jian. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. After a pause, Yun Jian continued in front of everyone in the martial arts club. Hidden Dragon Mountain. Chapter 26:10. Hey, Hidden Dragon Mountain? I heard that in that place, don't climb to the top of the mountain. The environment is elegant and beautiful, but if you climb to the top of the mountain, you are forbidden to enter. I heard that at the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, there is a real dragon from ancient times. I don't know if it's true or not. There are many adventurers who like to go to Hidden Dragon Mountain for adventures. I know a tour guide who will bring a group of people there in 2 days. He will tell you where to go and where not to go. Then, I'll sign you up? Emo Bufan was very concerned about Yun Jian's matters. As he spoke, he immediately took out his phone from his pocket and scrolled through his contacts. Thank you. Yun Jian responded to Emo Bufan, then turned around and left the martial arts club. Our president is going to go to Hidden Dragon Mountain for a trip. How about our martial arts club's entire tour group go on a trip together? Zhou Huntao stood up and shook his, but as he suggested, come on, you organize it. A girl replied to Zhou Huntao with a laugh. All right, it's a deal. Zhou Huntao replied. Halfway up the Hidden Dragon Mountain, there was a boundary that prohibited entry. This was because somewhere in the hidden Dragon Mountain, there were dangerous groups of ferocious beasts, piranhas, packs of wolves, groups of poisonous snakes, huge lizards, and so on. There were countless of them. It was very difficult to go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. You had to pass through layers of danger to reach the top of the mountain. Most of the adventurers who entered Hidden Dragon Mountain all year round died there. As for Yunjian, she planned to follow the tour group to Hidden Dragon Mountain and enter the forbidden area alone. She followed the tour group because the tour group led the way, so she could reach her destination directly. Jiangqing City's largest casino. The casino was filled with the smell of smoke. Yunjian walked in. Most of the people in the casino were greasy uncles. Some people were too excited to gamble and put their feet on the table, not caring about their image. Here the smell of smoke filled the air. Yunjian walked in with a backpack on her back and was stopped by the casino's person in charge. "Hey, little sister, this is not a place you should come to. Leave quickly." The casino's person in charge was obviously trying to persuade Yunjian to leave for her own good, but his tone was not good. Could it be that this little girl likes to gamble? Or was it because his family was short of money and he was using himself as a stake? "Hee, if you want to use yourself as a stake to bet with us, then I, your son-in-law, will be the first to go." A greasy middle-aged man, who had his feet propped on the table and 10 gold rings on both his hands, asked lazily, as he looked at Yunjian with a wretched expression, "Count me in." "Me too." Someone in the crowd immediately spoke up. After all, there were all kinds of people in the casino. The world was big, and there were all kinds of strange things. In the casino, one could see a lot of evil faces that one would not normally see. "Don't fight with me. Little girl, bet with me." The greasy uncle with gold rings on all 5 of his fingers, who was obviously a rich man, clicked his tongue and said, just when everyone was laughing and joking around, as if they were watching Yunjian make a fool of herself. Yunjian pulled open the backpack on her shoulder expressionlessly and flung it at the greasy uncle's face. Walala! A backpack of Grandpa Mao slid out of the backpack, shocking everyone present. Yunjian's voice that sent chills down one's spine rang abruptly. "I know that this casino sells firearms and equipment behind the scenes. I want to buy the best firearms and equipment you have here. Call your head out in 3 minutes. Chapter 26:11. Yunjian came to this casino in Jiangqing City for only one purpose, and that was to buy the best military equipment as quickly as possible. She wanted to go to the forbidden area of the Hidden Dragon Mountain alone. If she met a god, she would kill a god. If she met a demon, she would kill a demon. Anyone who blocked her would be killed. Good tone. Good girl. Haha. Just as Yunjian finished speaking, a burly man who was 178 meters tall walked over from the side of the casino. This 178 meters tall middle-aged man was wearing a gray vest. The muscles on his arms were so thick that they were obvious. He had a long beard and looked older than his actual age. The middle-aged man came in front of Yunjian and said to Yunjian, "Then little girl, what kind of military weapons do you want to buy from me?" After that, the middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and looked at Yunjian. "That depends on what level of military fire you have here." Yunjian's expression did not change at all. At the end of her sentence, she raised her leg and kicked the stool in front of her. The empty stool collided with the stool that the greasy uncle was sitting on, who had been hit by Yunjian's backpack of grandpa money. With a bang, the 2 stools collided with each other. The greasy uncle had yet to recover from the shock just now. At this moment, the backpack that contained the bag of grandpa money that had not been spilled out was accurately thrown in front of the middle-aged man, with the help of the elastic force. From the moment Yunjian kicked the stool until now, she did not look away from the middle-aged man's eyes at all. However, she controlled the strength of her feet to the extreme. There was no deviation at all. She used the stool to throw the bag of grandpa money to the middle-aged man's feet, without any deviation. When the surrounding gamblers, including the greasy uncle and the middle-aged man, saw this, their pupils constricted and they were shocked. "This money is all yours. Bring the best military equipment here. If the money is not enough, I'll make it up for you. Yun Jian's cold words made the middle-aged man blink fiercely. Her backpack was half the size of her body. The grandpa money in this backpack added up to at least 1,000,000 yuan. The middle-aged man gently licked his lips with the thumb of his right hand. He smiled and stared sharply at Yun Jian. However, he spoke to his subordinate standing behind him. Go, take out the best equipment from the warehouse. The middle-aged man's men immediately responded and ran to the warehouse. When the gamblers in the casino saw this scene, especially the group of gamblers led by the greasy uncle who teased Yun Jian, they were all stunned. First of all, how did this teenage girl know that this casino was secretly selling firearms? Actually, she was just a little girl. What was the point of spending so much money on firearms? Just as everyone was puzzled, the middle-aged man's subordinates returned from the warehouse. At the same time, they placed a large pile of weapons on an empty chess table. You make your choice. The middle-aged man gestured to Yun Jian. All the gamblers in the casino stopped in their tracks and stared straight at Yun Jian. Everyone watched as Yun Jian walked towards the pile of firearms. All kinds of pistols, rifles, submachine guns, automatic rifles, assault rifles, and all kinds of grenades. If she could pick the best weapons out of so many weapons, then Yun Jian must be someone who knew guns very well. Everyone was waiting to see Yun Jian's choice. Who knew that Yun Jian would walk to the pile of firearms, pick out 2 pistols, a rifle and 10 grenades. She put them into her backpack and turned to leave without saying anything. The group of criminals who also didn't know guns were all shocked. Suddenly, the middle-aged man looked at Yun Jian's back as she left. He shook his head and said something that shocked everyone with a funny tone. The only 2 high-performance pistols and a top-notch rifle I have here were taken by her just like that. In order to bring these 3 things back to China, I spent a lot of effort. Chapter 26:12. The middle-aged man's words made all the gamblers present feel shocked by Yun Jian. They came and went in a hurry. Such was the case with small arms deals. When Yun Jian returned to the martial arts club, it was already 1:30 in the afternoon. After returning to the martial arts club, she put her backpack in a corner of the martial arts club. At this time, Mo Bufan walked over. President, I have already helped you contact the tour group. We can set off tomorrow. You just need to ask for leave from the school. After Mo Bufan finished talking about the key points, he paused and then said, I know a friend who is going to Hidden Dragon Mountain this time. He is the tour guide of the tour group. Tell him where you want to go. He is quite familiar with Hidden Dragon Mountain and will guide you there. Mo Bufan's words made Yun Jian pursed her red lips slightly and nodded gently. Thank you. Hey, what are you thanking me for? The martial arts club is one of us. No need to say thank you. Mo Bufan laughed. Mo Bufan, who was highly sought after by the girls of the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China, and even the female students who knew him to show off, was obedient to Yun Jian. If people knew about this, they would be envious. Early the next morning, Yun Jian went to the tour group to sign up. Those who followed the tour group usually acted in teams. If they wanted to travel to a certain place, it was best not to follow the tour group, because there were many restrictions on traveling in a group. Basically, they would not have a good time. One advantage of following the tour group was that they would not find the wrong place. Yun Jian was not traveling. She only needed to find the right place and not take any detours, so she chose to follow the tour group. At this time, not everyone had arrived yet. Yun Jian sat on a bench and waited silently. Coming. Everyone gather here. Until the tour guide waved to everyone, indicating for them to gather. On the way to Hidden Dragon Mountain in Yun Province, Yun Jian sat in the last row of the bus. There were groups of 2s and 3s all around, chattering excitedly. Yun Jian sat at the back, looking a little lonely. Originally, Yun Jian had decided to go to Hidden Dragon Mountain with Lan Su, but after knowing the truth, she planned to go alone. Are you the girl named Yun Jian that Bufan asked me to take care of? Hello, I'm the tour guide for this trip. My surname is Gu. You can call me Big Brother Gu like everyone else. Sister, You can tell me anything you need along the way. I can show you where you want to go. Bufan asked me to take care of you. You don't have to be polite with me. Yun Jian, who was looking at the window, suddenly heard a male voice. Hearing this, she turned her head to look. A young man in his 30s with a tiger tattoo on his arm chuckled at her. Big Brother Gu was Mo Bufan's friend from the tour group. Hello, thank you. Yun Jian replied briefly. Big Brother Gu, quick. Look for the plastic bags. Someone is going to throw up. Someone in front of the bus shouted anxiously. Hearing this, Big Brother Gu quickly said goodbye to Yun Jian and ran to the front of the bus. The journey was very smooth. When they arrived at the hotel, everyone checked in under Big Brother Gu's arrangements. This hotel in Yun Province was built with bamboo and had the unique aura of Yun Province's ethnic minorities. When her feet stepped on the hotel stairs, they could make a soft creaking sound. After checking in, everyone returned to the hotel after dinner. Yun Jian went straight to the front desk of the hotel. Standing at the front desk of the hotel was a young girl, who was about the same age as Yun Jian. This young girl was wearing Yun Province's ethnic clothing. She wore a Miao tribe hat on her head, and her clothes were adorned with many small accessories. When she walked, these small accessories would make a crisp rustling sound when they collided with each other. Hello, the young girl said with a smile when she saw Yun Jian walking towards her. Hello, I'd like to ask how to reach the peak of Shrouding Dragon Mountain, Yun Jian said directly. Who knew that when the young girl heard Yun Jian's words, her hand paused. In the next second, the abacus in the young girl's hand suddenly slipped from her hand onto the table. She looked as if she was afraid and thought of something terrifying. She exclaimed, You want to go to the peak of Shrouding Dragon Mountain? Come. Wonderful book house. Chapter 26:13. When the girl heard Yun Jian's words, her face was full of horror as if she was frightened. Seeing this, Yun Jian's expression didn't change at all. She naturally knew the reason why the girl was so shocked and trembling. The top of Hidden Dragon Mountain seemed to be cursed by someone. It was rumored that those who went to the top of the mountain were either dead or disabled. Many adventurers and explorers went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain to find the truth, but they all lost their lives here. Just when the girl was stunned, a woman who was more mature than the girl and dressed like the girl, but dressed more maturely, pulled the girl behind her and smiled at Yun Jian. I'm sorry, because some time ago, several adventurers went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, and only one person returned here. And that person? He's already crazy. My daughter was scared by the person who came back from Hidden Dragon Mountain. So when she heard the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, she lost control. This woman was obviously more mature than the girl. Hearing this, Yun Jian nodded slightly. My advice is that you don't go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. It's definitely not a fun place. Look at the young man sitting on the bench at the door. He went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain last time, and he was the only one who came back alive. The woman pointed to a young man sitting on a bench near the gate, his head and body trembling incessantly as he counted on his fingers. When the people in the tour group who came here with Yun Jian heard the woman's words, they looked at the young man sitting at the door with some fear and curiosity. He saw the young man counting his fingers over and over again. His eyes were bigger than a dead fish, and he kept shaking his head and muttering in fear. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Dead. Dead, dead, dead. Big monster. There's a big monster. Run. 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 This young man, who should be no different from a normal person, was completely crazy. He kept repeating the movements of his hands and the words of his mouth over and over again. Thank you for the reminder. Seeing this, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. In the end, she turned around and walked out of the door with her backpack. At the moment when she was about to walk out of the door, she turned to look at the woman and said, But I must go to the peak of the Hidden Dragon Mountain. Seeing how persistent Yun Jian was, the woman shook her head and sighed. All right, be careful. I have a map of the entrance to the peak of Hidden Dragon Mountain. After getting the map, Yun Jian left the hotel without hesitation. She didn't even inform Brother Gu, and went to the entrance to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. This was a cave that stretched as far as the eye could see. No one knew what was on the other side of the cave. Just as Yun Jian was about to step forward, she heard a voice behind her. Wait! Do you also want to go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain? Let's go together. Yun Jian turned around when she heard the voice. He saw a few familiar faces. We also took the tour group bus with you. When we came, we saw you looking at the window. You probably didn't pay much attention to us. Hello, my name is Zhou Boppy. People call me Zhou Boppy. You can call me Boppy bro. Standing at the front was a fat man who was about 169 meters tall and weighed a full 160 pounds. He patted his belly and said, If you're also going to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, let's go together. A handsome man who was about 1.8 meters tall and looked cold said to Yun Jian. The only girl in the team winked at Yun Jian and said with a smile, Welcome. Then we have 5 people. Chapter 26:14. When the girl heard Yun Jian's words, her face was full of horror, as if she was frightened. Seeing this, Yun Jian's expression didn't change at all. She naturally knew the reason why the girl was so shocked and trembling. The top of Hidden Dragon Mountain seemed to be cursed by someone. It was rumored that those who went to the top of the mountain were either dead or disabled. Many adventurers and explorers went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain to find the truth, but they all lost their lives here. Just when the girl was stunned, a woman who was more mature than the girl and dressed like the girl, but dressed more maturely, pulled the girl behind her and smiled at Yun Jian. I'm sorry, because some time ago, several adventurers went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, and only one person returned here. And that person? He's already crazy. My daughter was scared by the person who came back from Hidden Dragon Mountain. So when she heard the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, she lost control. This woman was obviously more mature than the girl. Hearing this, Yun Jian nodded slightly. My advice is that you don't go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. It's definitely not a fun place. Look at the young man sitting on the bench at the door. He went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain last time, and he was the only one who came back alive. The woman pointed to a young man sitting on a bench near the gate, his head and body trembling incessantly as he counted on his fingers. When the people in the tour group who came here with Yun Jian heard the woman's words, they looked at the young man sitting at the door with some fear and curiosity. He saw the young man counting his fingers over and over again. His eyes were bigger than a dead fish, and he kept shaking his head and muttering in fear. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Dead. Dead, dead, dead. Big monster. There's a big monster. Run. 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 This young man, who should be no different from a normal person, was completely crazy. He kept repeating the movements of his hands and the words of his mouth over and over again. Thank you for the reminder. Seeing this, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. In the end, she turned around and walked out of the door with her backpack. At the moment when she was about to walk out of the door, she turned to look at the woman and said, But I must go to the peak of the Hidden Dragon Mountain. Seeing that Yun Jian was so persistent, the woman shook her head and sighed. Okay, be careful. I have a map of the entrance to the peak of Hidden Dragon Mountain. After getting the map, Yun Jian left the hotel without hesitation. She didn't even inform Brother Gu, and went to the entrance to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. This was a cave that stretched as far as the eye could see. No one knew what was on the other side of the cave. Just as Yun Jian was about to step forward, she heard a voice behind her. Wait! Do you also want to go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain? Let's go together. Yun Jian turned around when she heard the voice. He saw a few familiar faces. We also took the tour group bus with you. When we came, we saw that you kept looking at the window. You probably didn't pay much attention to us. Hello, my name is Zhou Boppy. People call me Boppy Zhou. You can call me Boppy bro. Standing at the front was a fat man who was about 169 meters tall and weighed a full 160 pounds. He patted his belly and said, If you're also going to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, let's go together. A handsome man who was about 1.8 meters tall and looked cold said to Yun Jian. The only girl in the team winked at Yun Jian and said with a smile, Welcome. Then we have 5 people. Come. Wonderful Book House. You're tuning in to the Lee May's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.